fantasy and ever-changing views and computer terminology. Commodore news. Are you keeping up with the Commodore? Yes, the Commodore is keeping up with you. Are you keeping up with the Commodore? 'Cause the Commodore is keeping up with you. Are you keeping up? 'Cause the Commodore is keeping up with you. Are you keeping up? 'Cause the Commodore is keeping up with you.
Hello and welcome to episode 156 of Zapped to the Past. I'm Adrian Mills. I'm joined as always by Mr. Graham Raddings. If you haven't listened before, well, this is a podcast where we discuss games that were released for the Commodore 64. We are using the magazine Zap 64 as a monthly guide for the games to focus on, but we are in no way affiliated with Zap 64 itself. This week, we start our look at August 1990 and the first batch of games reviewed in issue 64 of Zap 64, along with what was also going on in the UK singles and albums chart that month. Graham, the year moves along at a pace. Has the quality of games risen like a nice loaf or sank like an under-yeasted bun?
August 1990 is here, and only a small bunch of games to look at to begin with. So in a month that also saw NASA's Magellan spacecraft land on Venus, we head to the world of C64 arcade conversions to find one of the more obscure, but potentially quite influential, Tetris-like games with Klax, and then dress in our best yellow and run and gun across some sluggish character graphics in the hard-as-nails A.M.C. August 1990 is full of trouble and tragedy. It saw the start of the Gulf War and Operation Desert Shield, and American soul singer Curtis Mayfield was paralysed from the neck down after some stage lighting equipment fell on him during an outdoor concert. Terrible. While we just take a minute to process that, we grab our skis, snowboards, and inner tubes as we take a trip to Rodney's Snow Shack, this time looking to get some wintry fun with Ski or Die, before finally climbing into the turret of a powerful tank, setting it to trundle mode, and then having a blast at some distant dots and lines with heavy metal. There is a lot of trouble and strife going on in August 1990, and easy to forget that in the US Wrestling SummerSlam, the Ultimate Warrior beat Rick Rude. Let's just hope that no one ran over his thighs with a lawnmower as a result. I think the under-yeasted option is the one I'd go for there.
Yeah, true.
There's no great batches of bread coming out of this particular quarter of the year in 1990, I'm afraid. There's a few nice graphics, but and I noticed there's a weird anomaly, isn't there? The sort of graphics quota has gone up, the music's gone down. It's like, What's going on? Give me both, you stupid fools.
It is, yeah. I'll tell you what, we'll get to the cover because there's stuff we need to talk about this issue. I think we get to the cover.
The cover's one of them. Goodness
well, the cover,
me.
We're going to talk about the cover. But do you not think, though, that they should have done something a bit special for issue 64?
Yeah, because it is 64. My gosh, yeah. How did they not realise that?
There's nothing in there that I can, there's nothing like, nothing on the front going, it's issue 64 for the Commodore 64. You think it's just a no-brainer. I mean, even we did it.
It shows, but it shows their mindset. We were all about the Commodore 64. They were about this, still at this point, C64 Amiga. So they were just like, someone probably said that. It's the 64th issue of the mag. But it's not Amiga.
It's not compatible with my system.
This is it, because this is an Amiga mag with C64 bits, which was the massive criticism it's about to get. So... And it is. That's exactly what it is, because all of the games that are coming out are all Amiga first, C64 second. I get where they went with it, and I understand why. It doesn't explain this god-awful cover, though.
No, and also, I mean, we said last week, pretty much every issue now has a cover tape, apart from this one.
Yeah, we kind of broke our own rule there.
Also as well, you would think that they'd have bust the bank to get a decent cover tape for issue 6. You thought they'd gone like, I don't get it. I don't get why there's no celebration at this point. I don't get it.
No, there's no celebration, but I also think if you're going to put a hero on the front of your magazine with corduroy trousers on, you deserve all you get.
Well, we do need to talk about that cover, don't we? Because for the first time, Graham, what is this cover? It's not an Oliver Frey cover.
No, and don't you just know that it's not Oliver Frey? I mean, that's no disrespect to the artist. You've got your own style, and it's not Oliver Frey style, and I get that. I just think that this is just not.
It's not Zap.
You got used to a certain way, you know. You see all the Crash covers, you see all the Zap covers, and all the others.
Antics and everything like that.
And
this
then
is not
it's just
Zap.
like, no, I know. And then the guy, the person, whoever drew this, they must have been very aware of that. Actually, I mean, you know, those are big shoes to fill. Do you know why Oliver Frey stopped doing the covers of this magazine? Is there a reason for that?
He comes back.
Oh, just took a break, did he?
But there's one that is coming up, sort of thing, which is even worse than this, because I've looked forward in time. I've gone back in time to look forward in time, which is kind of a temporal anomaly. But I know that there's a cover that is far, far worse than this. It's far, far worse than the Pac-Man cover, in fact.
I mean, I'll give credit where credit's due. He has drawn the greatest collection of weird facial expressions I've ever seen on a cover. I mean, this is a guy about guy. This is a person about facial expressions. Look at those weird cavemen going. Even the dinosaur. That dinosaur is just trodden on a Lego brick. It's like
I thought the dinosaur was going, hey! Look at me.
Like, volcano.
The Triceratops is going, oh.
And there's them two weird soldiers. I mean, it's very comic book art, which is very different style to what Ollie Frey did. I get that. It's spectacular use of corduroy, and that, you know, you don't see that very often. So I'm impressed with that.
You don't. And this is actually by Ron Smith.
All right. Well, no disrespect to Ron Smith.
He can draw better than I can. I mean,
absolutely, yeah.
So I don't think it's just. It's a. When I first saw it, I was like, "That's a bit of an odd style."
I wasn't ready.
I don't think anyone could prepare you for it.
In all fairness, he can draw folds, because those folds on that lab coat, those are great. I mean, his drawing style is just different, and I get it. And it's not. No, I can't draw diddly squat. So I mean, for me, it's brilliant. But there's just, I don't know. There's anatomy problems. Those cavemen. His arm looks really weird.
Yeah.
He's like, his arm's weird.
It's like the one in front of him in the middle, because the one at the back's going, smell my armpit. It's like, he's turning away.
Yeah.
He's turning away in horror.
Is he wearing a cowboy hat as well? It looks like he is at the back there.
It's quite possible. I don't know.
And they would have had beards. I guess I get all that. You know, these cavemen would have had beards, wouldn't they? Because they wouldn't have, had handy razors and shavers, so they'd have just grown beards.
But there's also the two what look like dancing red men at the bottom. I don't know what, red suited.
What game are they from? What is this all from?
Well, this is the thing. It's a game that's not in this issue. It's Time Machine.
Again.
It said there, preview Time Machine, past, present, and future tension. It's not in this magazine.
Right,
it's not in this issue again.
And those two like dudes in the red at the bottom there, well, they look like the Flash, don't they? Like not Flashers, but look like the Flash.
I don't know. They've got.
I don't know.
They've got nipples on the top of their heads.
Tit heads. That's what they are. Proper tit heads. This typography has gone a bit wild again. It's all over the shop and it's very close to the edge. That makes me very uneasy. It's like somebody didn't look at the part where they cut it off, do they? Or maybe it's just probably the way they've clipped this.
Is it the kerning? The kerning?
No, the kerning's the gap between text. It's it's the clipping area around it, isn't it?
Yeah,
so you have like
okay.
But they didn't. They went into those. You know, when you go on like a Photoshop or an Illustrator, it gives you like a template. It's got like a little border, and it's like, don't go in this border. Whatever you do, don't go in that border. And you're like, the border, I'm using it. And it's like, no. And when you get the printing back, you're like, it's too close to the edge because of the border. I didn't allow for that little space.
Why didn't I listen? I turned the borders off. I poked the wrong poke. I did the Zedek. What's it? What's turn the borders off? You know it is. SYS something or other. What's the poke?
What, the poke for the top and bottom border?
Yeah. What is it? Come on. It's just a chest.
It's not one single poke. It's not one poke can do that. You've got to do a little bit of trickery there. But a small arrangement of code. Yeah. You have to convince the C64 it's already drawn the border and stuff.
That's what's done here. But would you like to have won a Swatch watch?
I hated them. I hated Swatch watches, and I still do.
Well, this is in an issue about Time Machine, although actually not about Time Machine. It's like this cover has come back from an alternative future. I don't know. I'll appreciate the fact that it's better than I can draw, and it's okay, but it's not Ollie Frey.
Yeah. Well, what does it mean when it says Unreal, a Gallic showstopper? Gallic?
I think French. It's not Gaelic. It's Gallic. I think Gallic it means French, doesn't it?
The deaf guide to handhelds annoyed me because the fingers were pointing in the wrong direction. The one on the right should be pointing inwards.
One's just pointing off the bottom.
Yeah, they're both pointing to the right. When the right one should be pointing to the left at the actual thing that it's meant to be highlighting.
Yeah,
it's decisions like that frustrate me beyond compare. But anyway, yeah, like you said, it's a bit of a mishmash. Not a good one, but I admire anyone who can draw cavemen doing those kind of facial reactions. You don't see it very often. It's like that guy in the middle. His hairstyle is brilliant. He's got a really short crop mullet, and he's looking at. He's got like he's holding a spear, and he's like he doesn't know what he's on. He's like, I like that. I like that about it. Those 3 cavemen, it's worth it for them alone.
Yeah, true. Just stuck them in on the right there. Those and the tit heads.
Yeah, exactly. The tit heads. Yeah, the
We
dance
like
of the tit heads. Yeah.
Bounce, bounce, bounce. Anyway, there you go. That's your cover. It's a different one. It's not only free. And it's also back on sale in the US by the looks of things, $4.50. It's pricey, isn't it?
Pricey, is it? Yeah, well, it's when we were doing quite well against the dollar.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. There you go. There's your cover. Should we get
It ain't
some
only
games?
free.
Yeah, should we get some games? There's only
Yeah.
4 games this week. Now, there was supposed to be 5. The mysterious 5th game. There was supposed to be 5 games this week. But what happened was, now I'll tell you this. Sit you down. And in the listing at the front, there's a listing for a game called Fantastic Soccer. That game exists. It's by Zeppelin Games. I think it's Ian What's-His-Face and Adam
We
Gilmore.
talked
and all
about it
that.
in episode 155.
Yeah, I think we did mention it, sort of thing. But it didn't get reviewed.
Why?
Don't know. It's just not in the magazine. There's no mention of it. It's just not in there. I did reach out to sort of on Facebook just to see if there's a few, because there's a few old zappers on there, and someone just said that it was probably because it was. They said it was going to be in there, but unfortunately the review got pulled for whatever reason.
Well, tickle my flaps. I don't like the sound of that.
I can tell you though, I did play it,
No?
and so I'll just give you the Pricey review. It's rubbish.
That surprises me with Zeppelin.
It's a terrible top-down budget micro-pro soccer rip that's not very good. So that's your Pricey for Fantastic Soccer. Nothing fantastic about
Pricey complete.
it. Indeed. But we have got 4 games this week. So with enough preamble, I think there, let us move into the first one. And Graham, it's over to you to tell us all about what the hell is a Klax?
There are many definitions of Klax. Get your Klax out, get your clackers out. It's nothing to do with any of that, thankfully.
It's the sound that ducks make.
Clack, clack. Yeah. If they've eaten too much bread, I think. You've got a bit of clag in the mouth. The quack and a clag is a Klax. Anyway, distracting me with your crazy. So this is $9.99. This was a sizzler as well, wasn't it? 92%.
Yes.
That's pretty good. It's pretty good. This was copyright 10-gen, and you know what that means, don't you? You know what it means.
The guy in the office next door to the other guy in the office has said, "What are you doing?"
Exactly, yeah. It's Atari /10-gen. I don't know. I'll talk about it in a minute, but it's 10-gen that did it. The design is Dave Akers and Mark Pierce. The coder for the C64 version was somebody called Dave, and I'm guessing it's pronounced Vout. That's V-O-U-T.
Yeah.
Then he later does a game called Dalek Attack. He does that in 1992. It was also coded by somebody called John C. Scott. So that's the guy that did Space Harrier 2.
Oh, okay.
And the graphics are by Dave College, and he did Blasteroids. So, okay. Musician is Matt Furness, of course. He did Space Harrier 2, Tubin, Castle Master. He's doing loads of stuff at the minute. He's like the only guy left.
Yeah.
So I'll talk a little bit about the arcade first, just to set the scene. Klax is a puzzle video game. This is from the wiki. Released in the arcades in 1990, so it's quite a recent arcade release by Atari Games, of course, in the arcade. Remember that the 10-gen is the non-arcade home version part of Atari or whatever, anyway.
Yeah.
But apparently Namco distributed the game in the Japanese markets. So it's a Namco game in Japan. All right. It was designed and animated by Mark Stephen Pierce, with the software engineering by Dave Akers. Now, there's an interesting thing. So Dave Akers designed all the versions. I suppose he gets the design credits because he designed the game.
Yeah.
The object is to catch coloured blocks tumbling down a machine and arrange them in coloured rows and patterns to make them disappear. I'll talk about more how the game plays out later. Klax was originally published as a coin-op follow-up to Tetris. So there's an interesting thing. That sort of sets
weird.
the kind of angle. Yeah. Sort of makes sense if you think about it.
Did Atari have anything to do with Tetris?
Well, it's about which Atari Games was in a legal dispute at the time.
Okay.
So yes, they did have something to do with it. They were in a legal dispute about it.
Right.
I dispute this. Akers programmed Klax in just a few weeks. Now, this is important. Using Amiga Basic. Interesting.
Wow.
Then ported each line to C. In a 1990 interview, he said he wanted to, quote unquote, produce something playable, compact, and relatively quick to develop. 7 years later, no, I'm joking. In Japan, Game Machine listed Klax in its April 1st, 1990 issue, and I promise you this isn't an April Fool, as the 7th most successful table arcade unit of the month. Seventh.
Seventh.
It's
better than 8th. Not as good as 6th.
If you got 7 there, if you were playing play your cards right, like you got a 7. Ooh, middle card. Middle card.
I'm going to stick and change it on the next go. Change it for a 6. Bruce.
So let's look at the documents then for Klax, for the C64. So Klax, the game. The concept is simple, and it is simple. Catch the different coloured tiles as they advance towards you and flip each tile onto one of the 5 bins. The object is to make Klaxes, not Tetrises, Klaxes. Got to learn to listen.
It's a golden axe and golden.
It is a little bit. These are same coloured stacks of tiles, horizontals, diagonals, and rows of 3. Once a Klax is made, the tiles disappear, causing any tiles on top to drop down and replace them. Nothing like Tetris whatsoever. All right, this is different. For bonus points, set up the tiles to cause a chain reaction of Klaxes.
It's nothing like Tetris.
Nothing like it. I don't even want you to think about it. Your paddle can hold a maximum of 5 tiles. That is a nice touch. I'll talk about that. Mm-hmm. And once full, tiles will just drop past it. Similarly, each bin can hold 5 tiles, and when full, you will not be able to flip any more tiles into it. The drop meter in the center of the screen shows how many tiles you fail to catch. Should you drop more tiles than you are allowed, or if all the bins become full at the same time, the game will end. A tile that flashes multiple colours is a wild tile, capable of forming part of a number of Klaxes. For example, if you flipped a wild tile onto a stack of 2 blue tiles, and it fell beside a horizontal line of 2 green tiles, both blue and green Klaxes would be made, and all 5 tiles would disappear. Ooh. Multiple Klaxes. That is.
What do you get for a wild tile? 2 in a bed.
A speed up option is available, which causes all the tiles on screen to hurtle towards you at high speed. Alternatively, use the throw option to flip a tile back up the screen in order to pick up a tile of another colour. Beware! You can only throw 1 tile at a time, and it will still come rolling back with all the other tiles as well. The game is played by completing wave after wave. Each wave has its own set of criteria for you to meet, such as surviving for a certain number of tiles or getting a set number of diagonal Klaxes. You'll be told about these at the beginning of each wave. Remember, the harder the Klax. The things you find yourself saying in this podcast. Remember.
the greater the pudding.
The harder the Klax. The more points you score. What do points mean? Klaxes.
Klaxes.
For example, diagonal Klaxes are worth more than vertical or horizontal ones. That's just an example.
They are.
That's it. That's the instructions. And in all fairness, you don't need any more instructions than that with this game because it's pretty intuitive as it goes. And there's a couple of reasons why that is, and I'll come to those in a moment. You start the game on the C64. Now, let's focus on the C64 version. This is a podcast about C64 games. This did come out on other versions as well. They were all probably more graphically impressive than the C64 one, I don't doubt.
Maybe.
When the graphics appear on the title screen for the C64 one, you aren't going to be impressed. I'm just going to say it right now. You're going to look at it and go,
It does look like the arcade, though.
It does, and the arcade is not graphically amazing. None of the graphics in any of the versions, with the exception of the Amiga one, none of them are amazing. But it is heavily use of character graphics and characters and the C64 typeface. It's principally all built with that, this game. And I'm guessing it's done that way because there's a lot of game here, and the game all fits into one load on the C64. Now, if that's a compromise they reached in order to do that, then I actually stand in admiration of that because that's a design choice that they could have filled it with fancy graphics if they'd have done it and had half the game or some of it, because I don't think this would have all fit if you'd have factored in all the graphics from the arcade. And there's not, like you said, there's a lot of graphics to it. So the idea of the game, as I've said, fairly straightforward, really. You've just got to sort of make lines, a bit like Tetris. This is a bit like a Tetris if it was mixed with Guitar Hero. And I have to say, and we'll come back to the Guitar Hero thing in a minute, because I think there's such a link between those two that I'd never even envisaged before.
Yeah, I didn't put that together, actually. Yeah, it's good call.
Quite incredible. So the idea of the game is fairly simple. The game starts, and weirdly, it says at the beginning, it is the 90s, and there is time for Klax. Nobody ever said that. It's just such a weird thing to say.
We've been having Klax for ages.
I know, Klax, absolutely. We were addicted to clatty foods, weren't we?
Yeah.
No, what amazed me about that little statement was it's like, I'd never said it until I viewed this game, but it made me want to. And I thought, could I go back in time? At what point in mine and yours and Gary's friendship would I have just said that?
It's
Come
the
on,
90s.
guys, it's the 90s. There's always time for Klax. You guys would have been like, what are you talking about, you stupid idiot?
Yeah, absolutely. This podcast would have never happened because we've not been friends after that.
Exactly. You can't just insert the word Klax into things to make it make sense.
No.
But the arcade does that as well. The arcade does exactly the same thing. And I did check the arcade out to see exactly what I was dealing with as well. So it starts with a very basic title screen in terms of it's all characters. So the main Klax logo is kind of flipping around, but it's all characters. You've got the Commodore 64 font. Even the border of the main screen is just the letter X. So this feels like this is the car boot of the games. This is the car boot version of the arcade. You'll start the game and then and it gives you the wave information. So it's all done in characters. There's a checkerboard effect, which is quite nice. And then there's I wouldn't say it was a UI, but the mechanics of the game. Now they've done an approximation of the way the arcade looks, and I'll talk about that in a second. But remember that in the C64 realm, this is all characters. I don't think there's many sprites to speak of here. What they use for sprites would be in the main sections of the game. But when you go to the sort of stage description, it tells you what you've got to do. Now, like for the first one, I think you've got to get 3 Klaxes, which is obviously 3 rows of 3, and you can get them in any way you want. So you can either stack them horizontally, stack them vertically, or you can even get a diagonal if you're feeling fancy. But that's what you've got to do is get those 3. And then when you start the game, and this applies to whichever level you start on, and you can start when you start the game, you can start, I think, on level 1. I think it's I want to say level 6 and level 11. There's 100 levels to this.
Challenging.
So you can start on any one of those. Now, I'd recommend level 1, because if you start on some of the others, it is crazy, a little bit crazy and quite complicated.
Yeah.
So you'll go through that. It tells you what it's got. So you know what you got to do from the outset. Then you'll go to the main sort of screen. Now, the screen sort of is Guitar Hero or Rock Band. It's exactly that. So you've got the sort of background. You've got like a fretboard in the center. Yeah. And then you've got these things that come towards you. And then you've got to time the way you drop them into the bucket. So the tiles flip towards you on almost like a conveyor belt. And there's 5 different sort of columns that they come at you from. Mm-hmm. They'll come towards you, and you on your end, you have like a catcher thing. I forget what they call it, but you've got kind of a little catcher thing. And when you flip them towards you, you can either catch them and drop them onto your kind of bin, and you've got like a little area at the bottom where you can stack them. And the stacking them is where you kind of try and stack them into the color blocks, because you've got different colors. So you got white, cyan, purple, I think red. And I can't remember what the other
loads
colours
of different ones, because there's red, there's the shaded red, there's green, blue.
Exactly. So there's a variety of colours of these like blocks, and these blocks kind of flip towards you like dominoes, almost like they're flipping towards you. Yeah. So the effect is quite nice. There's no major movement, so it's not like it's fancy 3D, but they do move towards you. They move at quite a pace.
I'm wondering if that's where the guy who did Space Area 2.
That 3D vibe. Yeah,
I wonder if that's what he was responsible for. Yeah.
So these things, they move towards you, and you use the joystick to control. So you control left and right moves your catcher, whatever you would call that. Mm-hmm. And then you've got them flipping towards you. And like Tetris, you can speed them up. So if they're coming towards you, you can either just wait and when they reach you, you catch them, and then you press your fire button, it will drop them into your bin, and then it will start to stack them. The idea is here that you can stack these tiles that flip towards you into Klaxes, which is really just collections of 3, whether it's 3 vertically, horizontally, diagonally, whatever.
Kind of like Bejeweled, I guess, as well.
Exactly that. So it's that arcade mentality. It's exactly that kind of, and it's built from an arcade. And I have to say, the arcade logic is sound here. This is pure arcade fodder. So you control, like I said, with the joystick, and you can speed them up like you can in Tetris. So if you want the thing to speed up a bit, you can just move it faster and it will zoom towards you. Now that works for everything that's coming towards you. Now, when you first start the first levels, it's one thing trundling towards you. Later, you have lots of these things coming towards you, and you have to be very careful because you can catch them. Now, one of the nice features about this is that you're catching, what is that thing called? The catcher thing, whatever they call
Whatever it is, don't worry.
You can catch more than one tile, I guess, as it comes towards you, or more than one tile. And you can sort of hold them, and then you can drop them at certain intervals. I think you can only hold 5. I think maximum 5. It might even be less than that, but you can only hold so many.
Yeah, it's 5, yeah.
And then you can sort of drop them. So you can store them and sort of move them around. You can even throw them back into the thing if you want to do that. So there's quite a really neat mechanic around this. So obviously the idea is to build up the Klax to get through the level. Sometimes it's not as straightforward as that because you don't get the colours you want. And the place where you stack them in the bin is actually quite limited. I think it's only 5 stacks high and 5 stacks across. So you've got 25, I think, spaces to be able to sort of contain all this stuff. Yeah. Which isn't a lot, and it fills up quick if you just start stacking them. So the idea is either get rid of them by stacking them into the right colours and get rid of them, even if it isn't the ones you're after for the level. Because say, for example, on level 3, you've got to get diagonal Klaxes. So you can't just get the standard vertical or horizontal. So you can't just stack them in any order. So you've got to think about it a little bit, which makes you think about how you play the game. Now, from a UI perspective, at the top of the screen It tells you how many Klaxes you've got to go, how many credits you've got left, and what your score is in kind of Commodore font. It's not going to win any graphic awards, this game. Then you've got this kind of checkerboard effect to the left and right. Then you've got your Guitar Hero thing in the middle where the Klax come, whatever they are, the tiles come rolling down. Then at the bottom, you've got kind of your bin. Now, the bin in the middle is where your tiles where you stack them. But if you miss any tiles, so if you zoom them towards you and you happen to be over to the left and one of them comes over and you miss it, then they fall into the bins and it just freezes you temporarily. But you've only got, I think, 3 goes at doing that and then it's game over. So they're kind of like your lives, essentially, really. Mm-hmm. And that's the way this game plays out. So for each progressive level, you've got more complex things to do. So it starts off with I think it's 150 points, but they can be 150 points, but you've got to get certain tile configurations in order to do that. Mm-hmm. Those are quite nice. Now, you can build up points as well and bonus points by getting non-level continuing Klax. So you can, for example, even if your goal is to get 3 diagonal Klax, if you get some vertical ones just to clear them out, that's fine. You're just building up points, but you can't do that forever. You've got, I think it's on a time limit so you think you've got to be able to do it over a certain time. That's all arcade logic, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And that's it. That's fundamentally this game. That's what you have to do. You control the catcher with the joystick. I found the controls, sometimes they were a little bit fidgety, and I don't know if that's a C64 thing or whether it was just
that too, yeah.
So sometimes, because really, essentially all you're doing really is moving left and right, pressing the fire button or throwing things back in. But sometimes I would move left and it would shoot left and I'd go 2 spaces. There's only 5 spaces you can occupy. But sometimes if I'm in the middle, I'd want to be 1 to the left. I'd go 2 to the left just by go, did it? In a game like this, timing is critical.
Yes.
And sometimes you find yourself like at the wrong end of the thing, you'll speed up the tiles and then you kind of miss them and you think, I meant to get that and I should have been there for that. Now, is this a game you can learn over time? Absolutely. But I don't know. I suppose it's a strange game in some ways. I can see its progression from Tetris. It is kind of it's a mixture of Guitar Hero and Tetris. That's what it is.
Yeah. That's a really good call.
And I think, like I said, it's clearly the beginning of the Guitar Hero franchise type games. There's no doubt about that. This is the influence on those. Now, I always wondered where the influence came from for them because my first encounter with those games was with you, and you were like, "Oh, you got to try this Guitar Hero game, Guitar Hero 3." It was
before Guitar Hero. There was Frequency and Amplitude, which Harmonix made, which is a similar thing. It had the same thing, just wasn't a guitar controller. You used the controller on the PS2, I think it was.
They must have all looked at this at some point, this Klax, and gone, because it cannot be a coincidence that this looks exactly like Guitar Hero.
Yeah.
If this had music playing and you just had to press the button when those blocks went over that white line that was part of your UI, this would be Guitar Hero.
Absolutely.
So, but that's by the by. This isn't Guitar Hero, it's Klax. So it's a single load on the C64. That's impressive. It's the only version that is, because all the other versions are not. And the version for the C64 is a little bit limited because the Amiga version, now bear in mind that the Amiga version, it was coded in Amiga Basic. And I'm guessing Amiga Basic is something to do with the Amiga, but I could be completely wrong about that. So I'm sure I'll be corrected. But either way, the Amiga version has a 2-player option. Now I imagine, and the arcade does as well, the 2-player option for this and the 2-player game is probably very, very, very good. And apparently when you look at the review in Zapped, that's kind of what sells the Amiga version, because in every other respect, the graphics aren't amazing on the Amiga either. They're better than the C64. But the graphics don't have to be great in a game like this. The game has to be great, and the graphics don't necessarily lean into that. Now, that's fine. I would go for getting the game engine complete and getting it right and having a playable game and all of the game here, and in one load, it's quite incredible that they've achieved that. That this could have leaned into a little bit of the Trailblazer world just for that graphic lift. There's also hints of that here as well. If you'd have put Trailblazer into a thin column, you probably would have had something similar to this, and there are parts that do that in that. So the controls, there is that twitchiness, but the logic is the same here regardless of the version you play. This was a key part of the review in Zapped. They said, look, even the Amiga version got a good review, but the C64 version was all there. It's just as good. It's just a C64 version. And I admire their stance with that because they gave it a good score. This is a very nice puzzler with very strong arcade logic at its core, but it sticks to its logic and it sticks to its game loop. And we've said it how many times now? If you've got a good game in the arcade and it has a good design, a central core of design, and they don't vary from that too much, the central premise of this game is one thing with complexity added by the fact that it gets more complex. They haven't done stupid stuff in it. They've just kept to that simple loop. And we've said it so many times. Simple, done well, with a little bit of nice execution. I'll rate that. Give me that over any of these other crappy arcade conversions that we've had over the past few episodes. Anytime. I'd rather play something like this. So I really, really, really enjoyed this. And it's not something I'd ever even heard of on the C64. By now I'm tuned out and I'd never played the Amiga version either. all the arcade. I'd never seen any of them. This is a completely new game. It took me by surprise. I thought it was fun, addictive. I'm not sure it sounds that amazing, but I thought it was okay. But there was a great design. And the design is what really sold me on this. And I thought to myself, this design of this game is so relevant. It's so good that it was later picked up and used for another game. And that's the sure sign that you know that the game design and the UI was a hit. Really was a hit, because this became other things. And that's a good sign for these kind of games. RTS games had the same thing. The early RTS games, they sort of try to find their feet, but then you get Command and Conquer and you get some of those and you think, actually, the formula was right. Sometimes it's just nice to have a little bit of iteration. So I thought this was really good, crazy challenging. I played this so much, it's ridiculous. I've been hammering at this. I really enjoyed it. It's an addictive arcade-style puzzler. And yeah, the graphics aren't amazing. It doesn't matter. What matters was the game worked in the way that it was meant to, and it was really good fun. Now, like I said, some people might have been put off by that. And looked at it and gone, and looked at that thing. All you've had to do is play it for a minute. The only thing I'm a bit surprised by is the price tag, I think, but it is an arcade license, but I don't know that it looks like £10 worth of game.
Yeah, I could see that.
And I think that would be my only complaint, is that you look at it and go, £10 for that? This looks like a budget game. And I think it probably, had this been budget, we'd have been all over it. This would have been a gold medal, I think. But it's not, and it's a sizzler. I think it's the deserving sizzler. I think it just doesn't quite, the graphics could have just been up the ante. It could have had a little bit of bitmap and a little bit of shading and a little bit of whatever in there, but it doesn't. So that's my thoughts. I enjoyed Klax. It was a real surprise. And it's a game I could probably see myself playing on other formats. I'd love to have got the arcade and see how that really fares, because these kind of games mesmerise me.
I tried it earlier on. It's good.
So well, I'm assuming that you liked it then. I mean, I loved it. I thought it was good, really good. Definitely go play this, give it a try. What about you?
I think this might win our award for game on most systems, according to Moby Games.
Yeah, it's on a few, isn't it?
I'm just going to go through them because it's kind of crazy. It's Amiga, Amstrad, Arcade, Atari 2600.
Oh, okay.
Atari 5200 or Atari 7800, Atari ST, BBC Micro, C64, DOS, Game Boy Color, Game Gear, Genesis, Lynx, MSX, NES, PC-88, PC-98, Sam Coupe, Sega Master System, Sharp X68000, TurboGrapx 16, and a ZX Spectrum. I know. I don't think that book, that 8-Bit Stories, has got all them in, but you know.
And a partridge in a pear tree as well.
Yeah. Obviously, it's not on the Jupiter Sword or anything like that.
Sword of Japan, you mean?
Whatever it is. But that's a lot of systems. But that tells you, doesn't it? We saw this with some other games, which are quite simple. Like, what was that other one? The Pipe Mania. That was on a lot. Because there's kind of simple loop systems, super puzzle games kind of work on a lot of systems. And this is no different. And I love a good reflex-based puzzle game. And this is another very good one. Like you said, much in the Tetris vein. You bang on about Guitar Hero. I can't believe I didn't spot that. I mean, it is. I can't, I'm shocked myself that I didn't say it's Guitar Hero. But it's got enough new ideas to make it something else. It's not quite as good as Tetris. Tetris is one of the perfect games. It's certainly got that one more go pull about it, though. And I was playing this for a good long time.
And it does.
I like the way that each wave asks you to do different things. And then they drop hints in it like, big X's open secret passageways or to a thingy, which make you try to make one, but it's dead hard. And usually ends
next to impossible.
And it usually leads to death. Like, don't challenge me to do stuff which I know is, don't go for that. So I quite like that. As you know, you're waiting for that right colour to appear. The challenge in this is well judged. The way that increases both in speed and number of blocks coming at you makes this a real good example of that. We talk about this in game design of flow state gaming. You kind of get in the zone with this and it's quite easy to achieve, which is, as you rightly said, something you sort of find yourself doing in Guitar Hero, that constant, that, or even games like Beat Saber, all those kind of modern rhythm action games, you find yourself in that zone. And this does that really well, especially when things start picking up pace and you're flicking back and forth and throwing them back and pulling them down and making them. It's really good. It's always something I'm going to appreciate. So that's cool. The visuals, they work. They're fine. They're simple, but, they work. And that's all you would need them to do in an arcade, because it's not the visuals that sell this, it's the idea and the gameplay. And so this is a decent port. I like a very more than decent port. It's a very good port. I like this. Feels like this is always, I think this was always going to work well on the C64. It just feels like a game built for the sort of 8-bit systems. Although, I imagine there's actually quite some trickery going behind the scenes, getting plenty of blocks moving towards you at a decent pace. Imagine that's not more tricky than it actually looks from a coding perspective to get that sort of 3D perspective. Yeah, it probably is, actually. Yeah. So there's probably this, like you said in the screenshot, ugh, but behind the scenes, I imagine there's some nifty little
trickery going on.
Yeah, nifty trickery coding going on. Because it's, you're scaling character graphics, multiple ones, and flicking them back and forth and throwing them up. And it's a lot going on. I've no idea what the name means. Klax, who knows? Who cares? I mean, they've obviously looked at Tetris and gone, we need something weird. It's a Klax. Okay. Okay, who knows? Good game, this. Solid conversion, finally, of an Atari game. I think it's probably the best one we've had. Don't think...
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Maybe, the best one before, it's probably maybe 720, but Paperboy wasn't that great, and none of the others we've looked at have been particularly good. But I think...
They've all had their problems, really.
Yeah, they have. But this in the arcade, by the way, it has that Atari sound that you recognise, that we've spoken about before. And it works, but it works here. So, good game, Klax. Good game. I enjoyed my time Klaxing.
Good game.
Absolutely. There you go, Klax. Yeah, definitely worth Sizzler. Let's move on to our next game and our last game for this half. And well, Graham, that game, it's another full price, $9.95. This is A.M.C. A.M.C.
Certainly is.
Yeah, this is from our Spanish friends at Dynamic.
No.
This is it's A.M.C. Given its full name, it's actually A.M.C. : Astro Marine Corps.
Of course it is. Well done. Well done.
Of course it is. It was published by Dynamic, this, across multiple platforms. This was developed, though, by Creepsoft. I don't know about them. They are Fernando Jimenez on code. We've seen him before on Freddy Hardest and Game Over 2, or whatever it was called, Phantasma or whatever. He had that other
They
name,
made really rock-hard games, didn't they?
Yeah. Carmen Sanchez, Gina Daviu, and Ruben Rubio did the visuals. 3 people on visuals this game. 3.
Ruben Rubio. That's a good name.
Ruben Rubio. That's the man. That's the person. And Charles Deenan of the Maniacs and Noise on music duties. So it is what it is. There's a story of sorts to this, and it is thus.
For it.
Your face remains expressionless and your eyes closed. Your vital functions have not been altered. The computer checks your physical condition and orders the hibernation chamber to open. A warm gas flows in. Yeah, it probably would do if you've been in hibernation. Through the air conducts, and slowly you begin to react. You are on the planet Dendar.
Really?
Yeah, where have you been?
This is Dendar. It doesn't look a bit like it.
Where have you been sent by the AMCCB, which is the Astro Marine Corps Central Base, but I think sounds like a trade union. AMCCB.
Solidarity.
Because you're in the SOC, which is SOKK in capitals, so I don't know if that means something either. Confederation, 3 million light years away. That's a long way away.
Far away.
Dendar is the first target of the dreadful Deathbringers. Right, if I said 2 Deathbringers, you'd be like, oh, they sound like horrible monsters and stuff like that, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
No, they're just criminals. Just criminals.
I think they're in Harry Potter, Deathbringers.
Maybe. Criminals of many species who have united their forces for a single aim to conquer the galaxy. Criminals wouldn't do that. To stop this from happening, the AMCCB has set up a tribunal, invited them in for peace talks.
Oh, what?
No, they haven't really. I'm just making that up. This is what they do.
Sounds like they would, though.
Absolutely. And they're threatening strike action on every second Saturday if they don't agree to their terms.
Work to rule.
To stop this from happening, the AMCCB has sent its best man, now recovering from his state of hibernation. And going by the title screen, it's either Art Garfunkel or Sting. We can't decide what. Can't decide which.
Or both.
Or both, yeah.
Sting Garfunkel.
Yeah. As we've seen with the old Dynamic games, this is what they call an FX double load game.
Is it?
That's what they call it. Yeah, the instructions is an FX double load game. Meaning that you must fight your way through the first half of the game to get access in the code to the second half, which is a separate load. Should you have that and you want to get to the second one, by the way, it's Dagobah. That's the code. I'm just going to give you it now.
Makes sense.
Dagobah. So the first part of the game, consists of 8 levels of left to right run and gun. And I hesitate to use the word action, so I'll just say running and gunning.
Mm-hmm.
Your mission here is to capture the Deathbringer ship in that first section, which is located at the end of the 8th level. And that's the first part. The game has it's got a decent loading screen, I guess, which is Sting or Art Garfunkel. He looks nice. It's the cover of the game. Basically, this guy who we talked about in the instructions, seemingly waking up, and he's got bright red pants on, and he's holding a massive gun. I usually reach for a cup of tea when I wake up. But I suppose a massive gun.
Yeah, me too, actually.
A massive gun, just a wake-up tonic for some people. Who knows? The title screen, though, when we get to that, it's a bit on the bland side. There's some options to start the game. You can change from keyboard to joystick. This is all 1, 2, 3, or 4. Redefine the keys. And you can play with either music or sound effects. And there's some credits at the bottom. The music here is very Maniacs of Noise by this point. There's no mistake in it.
No.
It doesn't go with the game at all.
No, it really doesn't.
It doesn't fit the game because it's really laid back. Almost sort of. I thought it was quite.
It's not. It doesn't fit.
No, it's very laid back. Like any kind of drive or decent tempo to complement the action. So, and it's the same piece of music if you do play with that in the main game. So, you're probably better to play with sound effects. I'm going to say, but it's up to you.
I would agree with that.
Pressing 1 starts the game. Okay, and first impressions. Well, they're not great.
No, they're not.
The screen
That's
is
been kind.
the screen is split into thirds, and I think that's probably betraying its origins on the Spectrum. I reckon this was a Spectrum game to start with, ported over.
Yeah, maybe.
Because it's got the top 2/3, they're the game. The bottom third is the UI.
Yeah.
And that shows your score, the timer running down. You've got 400 seconds to complete a level. You're never going to need that. Not ever.
Nope.
Your lives and your energy bar, which is a double bar for no real reason that I could fathom. It's like,
True.
why is it 2 bars?
True.
You control a brown and yellow character, which is just plain ugly. There's no way
It
about
really
this.
is.
It's ugly. Considering how many well-drawn characters we've seen in our time, this is very poor. Very poor. Even the gun is yellow and brown. What gun is yellow and brown? That's just stupid. At least could have been his red pants and stuff. Anyway, you control this guy left and right for running in that direction, back and forth. Up is to jump, up and diagonals for jumping in forward motion or backwards. Down for crouch or sort of lay down, and fire is to shoot. You can hold the fire button down for automatic firing, which is kind of handy. You just fire constantly. And you can actually, when you're doing this, you can push up or diagonals. Whilst holding the fire button, you'll shoot in those directions. You can't jump, though, whilst holding the fire button down. So you have to let go of the fire button to do a jump. And if you are in the air, you can then pull down into the diagonals and actually shoot downwards. But this is so tricky and pointless to do that you're never going to do it. You can also press the control key to throw grenades. Again, why not the space bar?
Stupid.
The biggest button on the keyboard. Why is this there? I've no idea. But if you do actually select joystick on the main screen, though, and you redefine the keys, you can switch the grenade button to the space bar. So go do that. If you're gonna try this, do that, because it makes it easier. No one wants to hit the control key for a grenade, because that's something, I guess, anyway. You only get 5 grenades, though. There's nothing on the UI that shows you how many you have left, which is kind of weird. So that's not very handy or informative. The UI is supposed to give you information, but they kind of forgot that bit. So the aim of the game here is to run from left to right, shoot or avoid anything that tries to kill you, get to the end of the levels. The first set of 8 levels will see you traversing the ground of the planet. This is represented by some bitty green, brown, and yellow style ground. It's got the odd palm tree that you'll run past. There are some buildings to move through, which are just sort of floating bricks. Which is kind of weird. Mostly, though, you'll just be running along the landscape of the planet. The most common enemies will just run at you. They take 1 shot to kill. They might shoot at you as well, so you can duck under that or whatever. There are some flying enemies that start near the beginning in some of the buildings. They look like weird angels for some reason. The graphics, the enemies in this are weird. Most annoying, though, and I reckon you're going to agree with this, are the hidden enemies in the ground, which will just shoot upwards and kill you with no warning whatsoever.
Stupid, though. Like egg things. Stupid. Why are they even in it?
Don't know. There's no way to know where they are. There's no indicator on the ground or anything, bar some trial and error. They make no sense because they're not always buried in the ground, which I guess would be logical. They're kind of like a Tremors worm or something out. They kind of come up and just go and crunch you and you're dead. So that health bar is useless because you're instantly dead. However, they can also be on the thin platforms of the buildings, which is stupid. Because there's not enough ground underneath, because they're floating in the middle of the air. There's nothing underneath them. So they'd be hanging out the bottom because they're massive.
Utterly ridiculous.
Stupid. Yeah, so that's really stupid and annoying. From time to time, power-ups will drop from the sky. You can shoot these, and then you can pick them up. These gives you shields, pointless against the enemies from the ground. You can get triple fire, which, kind of handy. Extra lives, top up your energy. There's a fireball thing, and there's extra grenades, which you kind of need. They can also... These are random. They can also be enemies as well. They get you kind of get turned into enemies by the enemy, and they'll sort of trace you. And you're like, The extra grenade ones are useful because there's a problem with the extra grenades, with the grenades in general. Because when you die, and you are sent back to the beginning of the level you're currently on. So that's level 1, 2, whatever level, you go back to the beginning. This is annoying enough because can be quite tricky to get quite far into them because of the instant deaths and all that kind of stuff. But whilst it respawns all the enemies, it does not refill your grenades.
No, it does not. Which
I guess you could live with if you did not need grenades to take out a monster in a pit at the end of level 2.
True.
So there's this pit at the end of level 2. It's like a Sarlacc pit. So if you think Sarlacc
it is exactly
it's
the Sarlacc pit.
So if you try to jump over it, this monster jumps up and grabs you, which is like we've seen annoying, instant death, and it's right at the end of level 2, right at the end. So if you do what I did, it takes 4 grenades to kill this thing. You only have 5, remember? So first time I went through this, I'd used all my grenades, so I was screwed. They didn't respawn, so game over. I couldn't get past this bit, so I had to restart. Then if you do what I did next, I killed the monster, taking 4 grenades. But then this is that kind of game where you have to hold the top diagonal to make him continuously jump forward. So I started jumping over the pit and then forgot, let go, and fell in the pit. which was instant death again for whatever reason, and I was back to the beginning, and then there was no grenades to pick up, and I was screwed again. So that was stupid. So that's just ridiculous game design, because you've got no way then of killing the monster because you took 4 grenades and I had none left. So you can't progress. But no, you have to restart. There are other creatures as you progress, which are sort of weird, such as Ed 209 style mechs. You got to shoot their heads off. And then finally, at the end of level 8, you'll face off against a giant creature. Looks like a bipedal bulldog. I don't know how else to describe it. He's sort of swinging.
Not a bad description.
He's swinging a mace. He's banging a mace on the floor, and he kind of runs at you, and he one hit kills you if he hits you with a mace. But basically, if you run back to the beginning of the level, he won't come past a certain point. But you've essentially got to get quite close to him and shoot upwards diagonally and shoot his head off, which then spews out fireballs, and then you have to crouch down and shoot his legs, and then he dies. And then you can just run forward, and you get taken up into the spaceship to the second set of levels. Okay, so in the second part, you're on the Deathbringer's planet, and it's just more of the same, except even more annoying. So the first level here, there's no shooting here. It just has you jumping over these floor amoeba type things. You're just running and jumping just over them, jump, 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 to get to the end of the level. Touch with any one of them, instant death. I had a health bar at one point, but no, touch one of them, instant death, back to the beginning with you. The second level, this has you jumping over these giant balls that are fired by worms that come up out of the floor. So, and like I said, despite still having an energy bar, one hit is death, and back to the beginning you go. And these balls, you can barely jump over them, and like one will spring up right behind another. Then they start springing up on hills that you got to go up, so they're slightly too high. So you're jumping, and one will spring up on a hill, and you're out of time to duck. It was at this point I gave up, because the design here is just absolutely broken and rubbish. Because it becomes deeply, deeply frustrating and so annoying that I just gave up. I was like, no, I'm done with this game. I'm done. I've fought my way through this, and I'm not having this. It's just crap. It doesn't even have the usual decent level of pixel art that we've kind of seen before in dynamic games, because they usually are quite nice looking. Some of the
even Navy moves look nice.
There's been some really nice ones, but it didn't even have that. So essentially, what it came to, this is a poor man's Contra or Grisor type game. Really. It's kind of what it is. It's what it reminded me of, the controls and stuff and everything. The levels that you make your way through are short and dull, and when you know what to do, you just run through them in seconds. You just leg it. You just leg it and jump. There's nothing to this. You know where the enemy is. It's just nothing here. There's no sense of strategy or reactions here. You just run and jump at the right bits. It's boring. Enemies are boring and ugly. There's little in the way of fun here. The graphics are just all over the place. I'm not sure if that is because of the 3 people working on it. Like they're all working in independent silos and went, we've made the game. And you're like, none of these fit together. Because your main sprite is a standard C64 multicolour sprite. There's, two stuck together, brown and yellow. The enemies, though, are high-res single-colour things, and they're weirdly sort of strangely coloured. The backgrounds are sort of medium-res as well, bitty and pretty ugly. They don't match any of the enemy designs. Nothing fits together in this. The explosion, where you fire big chunky character graphics, the explosions that are big chunky character graphics as well. These ugly multi-effect things go like that, but anything goes through them because they overlap. The character graphics are the big chunks missing out of them. None of it looks good. There's no sense of cohesion in the visual design here. None. It's just all over the place, which is in complete contrast to the Spectrum version, which I watched, which actually looked pretty good. Quite impressive for a Spectrum game. And you could forgive this, though. If this was a fun run and gun game, that you'd go, all right, it doesn't matter that the visuals are all over the place. It's fun, but it's not. It's rubbish. The levels are boring, like I said. Death is more often than not down to invisible, cheap enemies, and it's just unforgivable. The lack of thought around grenades and how you need them, instant death mechanics of the second section, awful, dreadful. I think this is a port, obviously, from a Spectrum. I don't think this was the original version. It's had very little love or care applied to it, and maybe all these problems exist in the Spectrum game, and they've just ported that over. But the design here is shockingly bad. It's been slapped together. No one considered this end product. Music aside, by Charles Deanan, which has obviously just been like, we've got this. All right, we'll pay you 200 quid for it, thanks. Or 200 or 1,000 pesetas, whatever it was at the time for Spanish money. Yeah, thanks for that. Have this. Okay, cool. Stick it on. Does it fit? No, nothing fits in this game, so who cares? This is a bad game. It generously got 39%. It doesn't deserve that. It's A.M.C, Astro Marine crap. I hated this on every level. There's nothing redeeming about this whatsoever. Do you enjoy it?
No. I mean, my first statement is the word is naff for this. The music was okay, better than the game, but not suited to it in the slightest. That's my main takeaway from this. The main sprite looked like he was made of cheese. in the first
Someone
part of the game, anyway.
a nice expensive cheese, and someone's not taking that brown wrapper off to get around them.
Yeah, totally. It was just
The wax wrapper.
yellow, mainly yellow, it seemed.
Oh, yellow.
Background graphics, clearly characters. So you got this horrible blockiness around them, which is just not great. Badly animated, badly realised. The shading was okay, I suppose, but it was all sluggish to control and it just wasn't very pleasant. It was ploddy, repetitive, very quickly annoying because when you died, you went right back to the start of the level, of course.
Of course.
And you would die for stupid reasons like invisible enemies you can't see and not knowing that you need to go on because the platforms that disappear are the same as the platforms that lift you up.
Yeah,
So
I forgot about to mention them.
So you don't know if you go on the lift whether it's going to kill you or not, which is stupid. It was challenging in its own way with the extra weapons. Okay, so you got rotatey things and the bullets went along the floor and all of those sort of stuff. But it's just slow and it's a run to nowhere. Is what I thought. It felt unfinished or at least unpolished or both. I suppose you could, at best you can say you could run along or jog along and shoot stuff. Maybe you were shooting it. Death takes you back to the start. It's just not knowing that you're going to die because of stupid weird egg things that swallow you. No. We can do better than this. We've seen better than this. They've done better than this. I mean, as part of their impossible game collection, it sits in there quite nicely because there's no way without any kind of live cheat or something, you're not going to get very far in this anyway.
No.
But if I'm going to play a game, I'm going to go for the Navy moves or something like that. I'd rather play that. I know it was rock hard, but I'd rather play it because it was a bit more graphically interesting than running around like that guy out of the Lurpak butter advert in the 90s. So yeah, exactly. So what is it, Derek or whatever it was? Not for me, this. A.M.C, like you said, yeah, just a blah, 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 not very good. No.
If you consider about a few episodes back, we just had Turrican.
Yeah.
Which is, similar third person,
yeah. Run and gun or whatever.
Run and gun stuff. We've just had that. And then we get this. It's like, what are you thinking?
Dog egg is what I'm thinking. No.
There you go. One good game, one terrible game.
Yeah.
As with everything, life giveth with one hand and taketh away with the other.
For every yin, there is a yang.
There is, yeah. For every Klax, there is an A.M.C.
There is an A.M.C, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There we go. We're going to take a quick break. It's quite warm around here at the moment. So, golly, it's hot tonight. So we're going to take a quick break, probably have a little drink, and then come back. And we're going to talk about music, Graham. Talk about singles and albums in August 1990. See you in a moment. And we're back. Well, let's start as number one was at the end of last month. It stays around for another 2 weeks. This is Turtle Power, Partners in Crime. For the first couple of weeks, was your number one single.
It is. Do you think they realised that someone who has a turtle in the UK probably meant that they needed a shit?
Yeah. If you don't want turtle power.
Exactly.
You never want a partner in crime with that one.
No.
No, you don't. Speaking of shit, for the final 2 weeks, I mean, we let rip our disdain for this song, but this just shows you what the British public were like some points, because for the last 2 weeks of August 1990, Itsy Bitsy Teeny Weeny Yellow Polka Dot Bikini on Ballerina was number one.
I don't get how it even got popular. But
Timmy Mallet, wasn't it? The kids, I guess.
Yeah, Mally's mallet. Or
Timmy Mallet was a very popular
If
character.
only somebody would have hit him with a mallet, like a real one.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Like that scene in Midsummer. Ooh. That would have been good.
Mummy.
Especially if you made that
what's
sound when he did it.
What's happened? Somebody's hit Timmy with a mallet. Oh, he always does that.
It was part of the Hog de Coo festival in what was that place called in Midsummer? I can't remember what it's called now.
I don't know. It's been a while since I've only watched it once, so it's an unpleasant film to watch.
Yes, because of the itsy bitsy teeny weeny yellow polka dot bikinis that are in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Number one albums for the first 3 weeks. God, he won't go away, will he? Sleeping with the Past, Elton John. And then replacing him for the last week of the month was Prince with Graffiti Bridge.
I've never seen the film Graffiti Bridge, so I don't know if it's any good.
Is there a film?
Yeah, this is a soundtrack to a film, yeah.
Oh, I never knew that. Should have read what you'd written. I didn't know he did another film. I only thought he did Purple Rain.
No, they did a Graffiti Bridge as well. I think it was a massive flop, which is why you won't have heard much about it.
Probably. It
was meant to be the big success story from Purple Rain. Graffiti Bridge was a big flop.
All right, okay. People have become wise to his acting talent.
I don't know that it's just that. I don't think it's about anything. I don't think Purple Rain was really, but people got away with it. Well, he got away with it. Like,
Yeah.
what's it about, Purple Rain? Purple Rain. Oh, yeah.
It's about when doves cry.
And they
What's
do
that?
cry.
Yeah. Right, into singles. 5th of August. In at number 21 is Listen to Your Heart. Dangerous. But it's double A side by Roxette.
Yes.
Listen to your heart.
You made me realise now that he says this is what it sounds like when doves cry. I just realised that now, and it's starting to haunt me. Anyway, why would it sound like that? This is what it sounds like when doves cry. I don't know. I mean,
Does
it
he
would
say
look
sounds
like
or
something.
feels like?
This is what it sounds like.
Yeah, I guess he does. Who knows?
When doves cry. Anyway, Listen to Your Heart. It was a huge hit, wasn't it? It was massive. I mean, it was all over, wasn't it? It was everywhere.
Yes, it was. And it's Roxette produced a slew of sort of big rock ballady type tracks.
Super ballads, yeah.
They were huge during this sort of period of the 90s, weren't they? So
yeah,
they'd really sort of hit their stride at this point. And this is another big title from them. Another big
huge,
single. Yeah. Number 26, Englishman in New York by Sting.
Oh, I'm an alien.
Yes.
It's Sophistopop. I found all my suits that I found in my wardrobe all freshly ironed and cleaned and dry cleaned. I don't own any suits, which was weird, but okay, that's just how this song goes. That's what it gives you.
It does. I opened my drawer to find all my monocles freshly cleaned and in a row, freshly polished in a row, which is odd. I don't own any monocles or drawers.
The irony of that if you wear two monocles at the same time. Why do you get glasses? I like to have monocles. Thank you.
That's always that bit in Futurama, isn't it? with Bender. Why are you wearing a monocle? I think you don't know how rich Fry is. In fact, I better put on another monocle. Which always cracks me up. But yeah, monocles. It has got. Do you like your toast done on one side, Graham?
No, I don't believe in it. Even with a grill, I would just turn it over and flip it and toast the other side.
See, I was too hungry back in the day, so I would actually just eat it toasted one side.
That's just so lazy.
We couldn't afford the gas. We were poor.
Never mind the gas bullshit. That's laziness. Takes minutes to toast. Less, not even that.
Yeah, but then by that time, the other side has gone cold.
No, it hasn't.
So then you've got. Yeah. How do you know you've never done it? You've got cold,
have many times.
Got cold, crispy side and a hot, crispy side.
There has never been a case of anyone that's toasted bread on one side and then toasted the other and the other side's gone cold. It's still got heat being applied, even if it's not massively direct heat.
I just wanted to get the food in my body as quickly as possible.
You're a fool.
You're loving, but I can't help it. Yeah, I know what it is. All that said, though, I do like this song. This is one of the few solo Sting tracks.
Surprises me you like this song.
Yeah,
I don't
mind. I think it's just got a sort of nice central hook to it, although it's a bit too clarinety.
You'd be telling me that you like Fields of Barley next.
Yeah, that's all right.
Oh, goodness me.
The first couple of Sting solo albums, which were Dream of Blue Turtles and I think one over this was on, they're actually not too bad.
Are you hearing the words you say?
I am what I am. I'm a sophisticated man, Graham, and I like to have dinner parties in the 80s, and this is what I had as my soundtrack.
Are you hearing yourself? You said an album called something about Blue Turtles.
Dream of Blue Turtles.
And it's okay.
It is
okay. Are you
okay.
mental? That's it, honestly. You've been drinking too much mercury or something.
We all like what we like. What we do like, though, is the next one, which is at number 34, which is What Time Is Love, featuring the Children of the Revolution by the KLF.
I don't know where this fits into the release schedule of the KLF, because their release schedule of stuff is weird. There's an original trance version of this which came out, and I don't know if that's at 1990. According to Wiki, there's a 1988 version of this, and then there's a 1990 version. They never released quite the same version twice. They deleted their back catalogue. There's all sorts of weird shenanigans about the KLF. Just part and parcel of who they were. So I don't know the full heritage of which version this is. My feeling is this is the version that was in the charts, that was played in clubs. This was the version that everybody was listening to at the time. And I based that on the other tracks that were around at the time. So I don't know. For me, this is the track that I remember it. When I listen to it, it's the one I remember. It's a staggering fusion of different sounds and genres. You've got acid trance, acid house, house basic in there, samplers in there. This was put together on a sample shoestring at best by two crazy art people who went on to do all sorts of crazy stuff. It's part of a fusion of ideas. I don't know that the KLF is any more than an agreement between some people that they should do something under that name. There's just an entire sort of culture around the KLF and all of the moo and everything else. However, underneath all of that, if you peel all those layers back, What Time Is Love is one of the greatest dance records ever made. It's absolutely accurate to what was going on at the dance fusion of stuff at the time. Astonishes me to this day. And even now, even though the bass line is 3 notes, it still amazes me.
Yeah.
It is absolutely staggering. A combination of an Oberheim synth. I think it's probably a Roland in there somewhere. It just blows my mind. It blows my mind that this track is so good. And you find yourself, I remember in the 90s, this hit the chart like a whirlwind. Nobody was expecting this. Nobody was expecting. There was all the different build-up. We've seen different tracks over time. We've had all the house tracks. And all of a sudden you got, somebody shouting moo moo at the top of their voice. And you're like, yeah, exactly. But you're like, what is this? With this weird fusion of sounds that nobody had ever quite put together by 2 guys that had no right really to make something as good as this. They just kind of fudged it together and released it using their own backhanded kind of, let's create a pop song and make it number 1 based on the idea that they'd already done it with like the Doctor in the TARDIS and stuff like that. So this record was an amalgamation of stupid that came together to be one of the greatest dance records of all time. And that's what I love about it. This record was accidentally massive. This was never designed to be this popular. It just happened to hit the right notes at the right time with the right people. They could not make this record any better than they did at the time. And it made them millionaires, so much so that they burned that £1 million. It blows my mind. Everything about the KLF is crazy, but this track is just astonishing. Even all the weird versions that came later, it's truly a beautiful piece of music, and it's one of my favourite dance tracks of all time. And I tell you, we're talking top 3, and that's how good it is. And I know Brown Sauce is a big fan of the KLF and all the rest of it. I don't think he likes them quite as much as I do, but in a different way, because he quite likes the sort of ambient bit of it. But I think he would agree with me on the impact and the importance of the KLF and this particular track, on the way the music industry viewed dance, chartable dance, and where it went after that. It's astonishing. It's like a timestamp of amazing. It's really cool stuff.
Yeah, it's all right.
So there you go. It is.
It's very good. I personally, I do like this version. I was always just because I think they took it to a logical extreme with What Time Is Love America, which I think is amazing. I absolutely love What Time Is Love America.
What Time Is Love America was a joke when they released that. It was a joke record,
but it's astonishingly good. It's amazing because it's this song.
It's the power of their production, and also the video for that. Is a testament to the power of how much weight they had, because they went to one of the big sound studios and then filmed in a massive video with a Viking longboat.
It's a Viking longboat, yeah, with loads of rowers in like helmets and stuff out there. There's that American guy screaming in the sort of that torrential rain they got going on.
Well, it's that sound stage they're on is one of the most expensive sounds at the time. One of the most expensive sound stages you could use. It's the one they used for films like The Perfect Storm. So later down the line, it's the big water stage where they can flood it with water, empty it really quickly, and all that stuff. It's mind blowing. Now, don't get me wrong. I love What Time Is Love America. It never actually cracked America. That's the only thing. They hated it. They hated the KLF. but the fact that they have that it's just stupid joke of a song. But the genesis of all of that is, of course, What Time Is Love. And later, by the way, I think it was 888 days before the millennium, they re-released this under 2K, did a live, I think it's 20-minute set of What Time Is Love. They released a crazy live version, did a live set for journalists for about 20 minutes, famously released 888 cans of Carling, I think it was, when there was 888 days to go before the turn of the millennium. Loads of weird stuff that's truly KLF stuff. Yeah. But they re-released What Time Is Love with an extended version. And even then, it showed it back, we're talking the year 2000, how amazingly good it was. Crazy. Mm-hmm. Crazy good.
Number 35, Where Are You Baby by Betty Boo.
Where are you, baby? We used to have. This is such a catchy, stupid song. I quite liked Betty Boo in the last song, which was the one. I can't believe it was the one. It sounds like this one.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
But at the same time, this was. She has a weird quasi New York accent in this. I know they believe you want me. Yeah. She gets a bit New York in this. I don't know why.
It's Betty Boo. It's Betty Boop, I think, isn't it?
I don't know. Is that the plan? Is that where she comes from with it?
I always thought there was something to do with Betty Boop, which is that, hey, baby, what are you...
Yeah, because she's got the kind of, New York, hi, Roger, what you doing? I suppose maybe.
I always thought that's what it was supposed to be. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's why I always took it as.
She looks now like it, but off you go.
Dink, dink, dink. Where are you, baby?
But
Dink,
it
dink, dink.
falls in line with a lot of other stuff that sounds like this at the time. We'll come across the big track that sounds like it later.
Yeah, we will, yeah.
I can't help but feel this had a sniff of Norman Cook's influence in it, with its sort of use of extensively heavy break beats and stuff. And her
Quite
outfit
possibly.
is, normally with Betty Boo, you'd say her outfit looks amazing. This one, not that flattering, is it? It's a bit,
No,
a
but,
bit frumpy. But there you go.
Yeah. Number 37 is Stay With Me. Stay With Me, Heartache, Feel... I don't know what this is. Stay With Me, Heartache, Feel Fine. Is this a triple... I don't know what this is.
It's a double A-side thing.
It's
yeah.
wet, wet, wet. This I just noted that this song would make Craig McLachlan blush with its ineptitude.
Yeah, flimsy song, wishy-washy, like limp broccoli, overboiled vegetables, really. So look, the camera's really, in the video, is really close to everybody's face. It's like too close. You're too close. Don't be that close to him. The angles are really obtuse as well. It's like not even like it's close. It's like close, but low down or high up or like in their eyeball. You're like, when he's singing, it's like his microphone's like close to his teeth. You're like, it's too close. You're too close. Just take a step back. But then maybe they didn't because it would have exposed the longness of his neck. His neck by this point was at its longest, 39 yards.
The wear point sort of thing where it's very close up and he's got that massive microphone that I thought he was going to swallow the mic.
Well, if he did, it would take 2 hours for him to digest. He's like a sarlacc by now.
It's like that thing in A.M.C. which just comes up out of
He's a
his pit.
sarlacc, yeah. Exactly. He eats food and it digests over 1,000 years.
Oh, poor food. In at number 41 is Look Me in the Heart by Tina Turner.
Dreary.
On it. This was...
I mean, good vocals from Tina. You can't ever say anything
She's
else,
always
can
going
you
to have
really?
good vocals, but the song is boring. The video,
Dreary.
someone had an idea for this video. It wasn't a good one, but money was spent. Someone bought that suit she's wearing.
Yeah.
It was just,
Yeah.
but by that point, they had to just go through with it. And it was like,
Totally. It was a Gucci or a Valentino suit. She was wearing it, damn it. Walking around a concrete gallery, I think.
Yeah.
It was just a bit bland. The whole thing was bland. When you look at the previous few songs that she's had out, this is like the worst one of the lot.
Yeah, very poor. Number 43 is Silly Games by Lindy Layton featuring Janet Kay.
Why not?
Why not? I didn't know what to make of this, but didn't enjoy it.
I didn't think it was very good. The only version I could find off YouTube was the Top of the Pops version because there was a lot of copyright strikes on all the various versions that had been put out.
Oh, weird. That is
It's
weird.
a Sony track, so maybe that's got something to do with it. Maybe it also features a lot of samples. I don't know.
Yeah, they're quite protective over a lot of their thingy, aren't they?
They are. They've just copyright struck you for saying those words
Ah, damn it.
because you sound too much like yourself.
And they own me.
And they do. You didn't realize it when you bought your new house, but you bought Sony.
Well,
Sony
actually,
owned
Marty
that house.
Pello owns them because it's so neck
Exactly. And he's just laid 1,000 eggs.
in my ear. In at number 48 is Beyond Your Wildest Dreams by Lonnie Gordon.
No, our shite.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a bit near the beginning of this where a silhouetted archer fires an arrow, puts absolutely no effort into it, though. That arrow's going nowhere, about 10 yards. Just rubbish.
Exactly. It's a rubbish arrow. Even if it's a love arrow, it was rubbish. If it's a metaphor, it stinks. If he's an actual archer, he's terrible.
He's dreadful.
And the opening moment of the video, it looks like she stood and looked at him, plus she's like, ah!
She does.
That's all you need to know.
She's like the T-Rex on the cover of Zapped this week.
She is. The rest is Bantha Poodoo.
Yeah. In at number 69 is The Joker by the Steve Miller Band.
Some call him the Space Cowboy.
Yeah, brought back by the Levi's advert of the time.
Was.
So Levi's, I mean, I don't like marketing sort of thing, but you've got to hand it to the Levi's marketing team at this point. They were selling a premium product and they were making it work with lots of 50s style men going into places and having 50s or older music playing, and it was just massive. It's just massive. I can't believe you look back on it, like every time Levi's dropped a new advert, it was like a big event almost.
It was. I mean, at the time they were releasing a new branding of jeans. I don't quite know what the technical
it was 501s,
term for
wasn't
that
it?
is, but they were like exactly, but they were releasing 501s, and everyone was like, "Oh, 501s,
The best
like
ones.
anyone knew what jean numbers really meant.
Well, I think when
But
501,
that's the power of their brand.
yeah, when 501s weren't they kind of the first button fly to really sort of not the first, but not the first. I don't know if they were the first, but they were the first to like make it like button. Everyone was like, button fly, don't like that. You can get in. I need a zip.
I genuinely don't know because there are multiple numbers of Levi's. There's multiple styles over time. They, I think, were famous for their styling of their jeans in the sense that they did distressed jeans first, I think.
Yeah.
And they did. There's a number of firsts, and I think button flies was a thing that they did because they allowed a bit more stretch around the crotch, which, as Homer Simpson would testify, he says it fits better around his crotch.
He says he wears out the crotch too easily.
501s were the big thing, and they still are.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
and as much as Levi's don't do these kind of adverts anymore, because nobody does these kind of adverts anymore, they were kind of event adverts. But they were part of an amazing advertising agency at the time. You know, the video's kind of nothing. It's called Great Deal, the advert. Guy rides into a multi-story building, rides into an office and kidnaps essentially a woman there and drives off with her on his motorbike. You know, and he looks a bit like the guy out of Easy Rider, I guess, but he was wearing 501s. I mean, the thing is with these adverts, you wouldn't know he was wearing jeans. There's no mention of jeans in it.
No.
But it was the idea of, there was this is when you got to the next level, new generation marketing. It was more about a concept around the brand.
Yeah.
And very powerful brand marketing. We take this stuff for granted now. Brand marketing is incredibly powerful when it's done correctly like this. And Levi's don't need to even really advertise anymore because they are such a powerful brand on the back of the strength of the things they did in the 80s, 90s. And in all fairness to them, Levi's jeans are brilliant. So,
yeah, they are good.
They don't pay us to say that in this podcast, but they really are good.
Yeah.
So it's not like they were selling a crappy product. They're amazing. So
I don't know as their own brand dark blue, but they're pretty good.
No, you get what you pay for with Levi's. And what blew my mind once with Levi's, when I was in Canada one time and I went to a department store there, and the Levi's were considered like cheap jeans. I went there and they were like, you're buying Levi's? Like, why wouldn't you buy Guess jeans or these other different brands they had at the time? I'm like, because I like Levi's. I'm like, fair enough. And they were like $20 or something. And at that time, we're going back many years. But
I do remember a time sort of thing where if anybody you knew was going to America or Canada or anywhere like that, you were like, oh, can you bring us back some Levi's? They're dead cheap.
Yeah. And now, of course, vintage Levi's. Wow. You're talking mega bucks for some of them. Yeah. I've got a pair of vintage 517s, which I got from eBay for, I think, 25 quid. They're a beautiful pair of jeans, bootleg, amazing, Mexican, with the original sort of proper Levi brand. I'm a bit of a Levi nut job, sorry, but I am.
I can tell.
But that said, these jeans are worth hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. And I got them from basically like a second-hand store, essentially. Oh. All the different branding and the different tags and the different things they have on the various Levi's, they equate to the year they were made and the kind of style, and just don't get me started on that.
You've been talking about Levi's for the last 10 minutes.
They haven't paid me to say it. Maybe they haven't. Levi's, you know what? I'll accept your offer right now.
Well, I was born a Wrangler boy. I'll die a Wrangler boy.
Wranglers. You get them in Matalan.
Anyway, at number 82, let's move on from this Levi madness. And at number 82 is Terrifying by the Rolling Stones.
And it is. It really is.
It really is.
Everything about it was crazy. Everything.
Yeah, I don't understand this video.
But try.
No, but he's dancing, he's playing, whatever. Did you list? I've put some of the lyrics here, and I'm gonna. This is the opening lyrics to the song. So let's see what you think to these. No matter what you say, no matter what you do, I'm lazy as a lion. My body's just for you. Crazy for you. I'm sneaky as a snake. I'm dirty as a dog. Rutting like a goat. I'm horny as a hog. Terrifying love.
Horrible. And he sings it with that kind of when he's like flipping about. And
can we go back to talking about Levi's?
Exactly, doing his jerky dance. It's not good, is it?
It's not good. Anyway, 12th of August. In at number 26 is Come Together by Primal Scream.
No,
I don't like this song.
I hated it.
I thought you would.
Horrible mishmash of nonsense. Horrible. No.
Horrible. In at number 38 is Heart Like a Wheel by the Human League.
Oh, no. I mean, no. I really like the Human League. Well, I really like the idea of the Human League. And I mean, some of their obviously the 80s stuff I really like because it's just quite pioneering at the time. And I quite like Feloki's voice. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But in this, it's just, there's something not right.
No, it's very out of time, very out of place.
Yeah.
It's these bands have had their time. You need to stop and just,
Yeah, and it isn't the last big release from them, is it?
No, you need to wait 15 years and then come back and do the sort of retro 80s band tours that they all do now.
They come back with a song in the, I want to say late 90s, early noughties, don't they? With I think late 90s. Tell me when will I see you again? That's one of theirs.
Oof.
Yeah, it's not great. It's like this one. It's a mishmash of stuff that doesn't work. His hair's inexplicable, isn't it? It's all one-sided. It's all gone to one side. Just gone the left. Went left.
Just, yeah, absolutely. He's betraying his political leanings. In at number 39 is Release Me by Wilson Phillips.
Great harmonies, isn't it?
Beautiful harmonies.
Yeah, beautiful plumage, yeah.
But nothing else. Very boring song.
It's really boring song, yeah.
Very sincere. Very sincere.
This is the problem with Wilson Phillips. This is what the big criticism of them is, that they had that original song, great, but all their songs just kind of were nice. And and you think to yourself, is there anything wrong with that? It's like, well, music needs a little bit of edge. It needs to be about something. You can't just be singing about, relatively nice stuff. Maybe that song's not. Maybe it's about a person that's been kidnapped by a serial killer. I wouldn't know because they sang it so nicely. I've gone, ah.
It's turned out nice again.
Yeah, exactly. Buffalo Bill. Oh.
He's given a lotion.
It puts the lotion on and everything.
It's very nice. In at number 46 is Next to You by Aswad.
Yeah. Well, I say yes. Aswad, an amazing reggae outfit, in their time. This is awful. This is, if you mix them with Soul to Soul, this is what you'd get.
Ooh.
I asked ChatGPT what that would reveal, and I'm not going to say it, but it just described everything that is. It's such an accurate description of that song. If you mix reggae with Soul to Soul, what would you get? ChatGPT said what you'd get is Aswad in 1990 in August.
Yep,
and they're right. They're right. They're exactly right. It really is.
They're right. In at number 47, we're going to hear from him in a minute. In at number 47 is Bonita Applebum by A Tribe Called Quest.
This isn't 100% my cup of tea. Very distinctive style, but it's a decent track if you go with it and you like that kind of thing.
This. I'm going to put my foot in it here, sort of thing. But it reminded me of what they called Me, Myself, and I, De La Soul.
Yeah, I guess it's that ballpark.
Are they similar? People probably listen to this going, God, no. But
no,
I don't know enough.
I don't know.
I don't know enough about that kind of genre.
Well, it's what they are to you. I don't know. Brown Sauce is the expert on all this sort of thing. He doesn't enjoy it, but he would know about it.
He would, yeah, he would. In at number 49 is La Serenissima by DNA. Now, you wrote you won't like this because you remember me liking the original, and I couldn't remember. I don't know the original title, but when I listened to it, I went, "Oh God, yeah, this is Rondo Veneziano."
Yeah, which I remember you going on about. Saying,
I used to love Rondo Veneziano. They were great.
Yeah.
They're really weird as well. So I pictured you're right. I don't like this, but Rondo Veneziano, for those who don't know, they were kind of this weird, arty,
really weird
Italian. They're almost, someone in the comments from sort of thing says basically you wouldn't have Daft Punk.
Yeah, no, that's a very, very good description.
Yeah, so essentially they're like kind of modern drum beats and with classical music, and they have this kind of really weird sound, like I think Italian from the sort of early 80s, late 70s, early 80s. They go on stage, they play. They're all like a big sort of ensemble of violins and everything, but they're all dressed in like mid 16th century sort of clothes, but they're all robot faces. They're all just got silver faces, so it's loads of robots playing it. But it's just brilliant. It's just great. Rondo Veneziano La Serenissima is brilliant. There's a link we'll put into, because we'll never cover these because they're gone by this point. But there's a footage I found of them on this Italian show where they do this song called Sinfonia, and it's just, you watch it and you go, that's Daft Punk.
Yeah, totally that.
Yeah, but yeah, really, really good, and just like good tunes with I always loved these. I had an album of them, which I used to listen to loads.
Yeah,
used to love it.
That's why I remember you really liking it. I remember thinking when I heard this, like diddle 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 diddle, I was like, I remember somebody really liked this. This was 80, but he won't like this version because it's got crappy drum beat and all that brand. But that's because the original was quite good, quite innovative and unusual.
Yeah, and
then he posted that video of them doing Sinfonia. And it's just literally like, it's like looking at something from the future of, an AI future.
Yeah.
It is extraordinary how future facing that is, and how
it's weird, isn't it?
Serendipitous it is. It blew my mind. I was like, wow. And it's obviously oddly fetishistic as well. I found myself thinking, God, I bet they can't breathe well in those masks.
Probably
it's got kind of weird golden gimp feel to it. That maybe says more about me and what I was thinking at the time than the actual song itself. But it's amazing. It is amazing. And I'd recommend that we'll put the video in the show notes. Do watch it. Yeah. It's astonishing. I mean, it is classical music played by really talented people who were just dressed as robots. But at the same time, just don't take the context of that out of what it is. There's something else that's genuinely unique about it. It's really cool.
I really liked it.
And it surprises me that we don't hear more about them and Daft Punk, because when you made the Daft Punk inference, I'm like, actually, obviously Daft Punk are French, these are Italian, but at the same time, there's a clear line you could draw between them, without a doubt. Even the costumes, the way they look. I mean, if you took those out of this particular video and put them in a new Tron movie, they wouldn't be out of place at all.
Yeah.
Amazing. It's actually really amazing to watch that. It looks like the sort of act that would be on Britain's Got Talent now.
Well, the weird thing was, sort of thing, on the video I found for that Rondo Venezia La Serenissima, the description of it said it used to be, ITV used to play it when there was nothing on, and they just used to put this weird video on of that music.
Wow.
And it was just like in a break when they didn't have it, they just put it on. So they just had this
like
playing.
A technical breakdown,
and it was like this weird animation, this sort of futuristic, robots and stuff animation, which is really cool. And I was like, I wonder if that is actually where I heard it.
Yeah.
I mean, back, just some weird.
We are experiencing a technical breakdown.
Yeah.
Just take a moment to listen to this.
Yeah.
Crazy robots playing like, wow. Keep it on and don't hope it stays broken down.
Don't bring Emmerdale back. Don't put Corey back on. Just more of this.
I remember the album you had, though. I remember it well. So
yeah, I used to love it. What I didn't love, though, was at number 59, because it's Pink Champagne from Shakin' Stevens.
Oh, why? Why is he there? Why is he back?
Don't know.
I'm reminded of that opening sequence of the film Gladiator. An enemy should know when they're beaten, Maximus. Would you? Would I?
It's dancing in this.
It's the same stage setup as the last video. So it's the exact same with the same tramps that he picks up on the street. Obviously, he's given him a bit of an extended contract. I've put his legs are a bendy, wibbly wobbly mess. And the video's got weird suggestive inserts. So it's got girls blowing kisses and licking their lips and all that stuff, which when followed by somebody dancing with severe knee loosening is not good.
I think his legs have been removed and replaced with draft excluders.
His legs are those things that are outside the car garages that blow in the wind. That's his legs. His legs have been replaced by them.
It's underneath they've got two pumps blowing up his trousers constantly.
That's a horrific thought. Again, he's quite sweaty in this because he's obviously doing a lot more exercise than he's used to. And he's got a lot of makeup on this one, though. He's trying to make him look a bit younger, and he's got very loose, almost, I would say, quasi hammer pants on this as well. He'd normally have drain pipes on for his beetle crushers, whatever they were called, brothel creepers, whatever we decided they were called. But this time he hasn't got them on. He's got kind of he has to have loose pants. His knees are loose. His legs are loose.
Who knows where they're going to end up? You can't have tight fitted trousers on.
And he needs to tighten them up. He needs to tighten them legs up. They're going to come off. And when they do, it's just going to be a stump. Shakin' Stevens is going to have an whole different connotation.
Oh dear. Number 60 is Grooves in the Heart. What is Love by D-Light. This is a bit of a classic.
It's a huge
definite
hit,
Gully's Gold, this one, isn't it?
Wow, yeah, absolutely. I've danced many a time to this. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think this is a great track. For many reasons. There's loads written about it. You can go and dig into it loads. Is it Lady Miss Kia?
Yeah, it is.
And the other two artists that formulated what became Delight, they were a big act at the time outside of, I think, New York, I want to say. Just genuinely, this song kind of hit the chart in such a crazy way and it hasn't really left the public consciousness of Britain since.
No, it was huge.
There's something about it. I think there's something that appeals to the quirky Brits about this track.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but there's something in there.
And it was cross-genre as well. So it would be equally accepted in a place like the Pier, as it would be in Gulliver's, as it would be in any kind of club. It just fits. It just has a chant. So it hits indie people, metal. You could play this anywhere and you'd be all right, pretty much. But interestingly, she tried to sue Sega in the 2000s because the character Ooh La La from Space Channel 5, the Space Channel 5 games, she tried to claim that it was a rip-off of her styling. So Ooh La La was the main character in the Space Channel 5 games, which are these rhythm action games where you dance against aliens with kind of rhythm action sort of thing. And so I posted a picture there. So Ooh La La was this, it's set in the future and she's a space reporter, and they're very, very odd games. They're very good. But she tried to sue Sega, and unfortunately she lost. Had to pay Sega lots of money.
I could imagine. I mean, I think maybe she thought she looked a bit like that. Ooh La La character.
When you see some of the characters and mannerisms, I remember it happening and going, yeah, I can kind of see it. There is something there. But
but
it's hard to prove. And I'm not saying that we're right, but just an interesting footnote to this whole thing and with video games and stuff.
this would be implying that Lady Miss Kia from D-Light was the originator of these kind of wilder dance moves. Just go back to the 60s.
Exactly. Yeah,
And
that's
just
what I mean,
look at some of the movies that were in the 60s. Look at films with, in fact, don't even have to go to the 60s. Look at Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and look at any of the dance sequences with Sharon Tate, obviously the person playing Sharon Tate.
I just thought it was an interesting side note. That's all.
Yeah, it is because she's obviously deluded and thinking that she invented kind of a look, when in reality that look existed long before her. A miniskirt and the kind of dancing she was doing. I get it. And I understand why she would think that, but just I think she fell for her own importance a little bit. And
maybe, yeah, probably.
She's crazy, but it's a good song all the same.
It is a good song. And Space Channel 5 games are great, especially the second one. In at number 61 is Easy Life by Cabaret Voltaire.
There's never been anything easy about the life of Cabaret Voltaire.
No.
I found an interesting video for this on YouTube, which I'll post in the show notes, which was called C is for Cabaret Voltaire. And it's actually a video of, they did I guess it's part of a longer piece, but they call it the John Peel collection. And what they do is they go through John Peel's record collection letter by letter. And you can go on YouTube and find all the different bands. And so C, in this instance, C is for Cabaret Voltaire. And there's an interview with the guys from Cabaret Voltaire and the relevance that they had for John Peel and blah, blah, blah. Now, the version of Cabaret Voltaire that this is very different from the version in the late 70s, early 80s. Yeah. I've equated this to the early stuff is like banging a frying pan on a deflated football while punching some soft cheese, whereas the later version has the electronic instruments while they're hitting a frying pan on a deflated football and punching some soft cheese. You either like that or you don't. Cabaret Voltaire, they gave us eyeball at the end of the day, and I won't ever complain about that.
True. I'm more of a hard cheese kind of person, but, if you want to punch cheese, punch some hard cheese. Okay,
well, whichever cheese you punch is going to make a different sound. Cabaret Voltaire will be into that.
It would be. Number 83 is Famous Last Words by Tears for Fears.
Do you remember this song?
No, don't remember it at all.
No. And there's good reason for that.
Yeah,
because it's awful.
It's not very good. 19th of August. In at number 8 is Praying for Time by George Michael.
Yeah, now it's a great track by George Michael. Great vocal, great production. Production's everything on that. It's such a good track. He was a tragic loss, though, George. When you listen to that track, and I did, it just made me think. You realise at that moment what a bright light we lost, really, out of time and space.
Yeah,
because it's such. I mean, whether you like George Michael or not, that song is just amazing. It is so well produced and so good.
It is good. And at number 11 is 4 Bacharach and David songs, the EP by Deacon Blue. No, this is
like
rubbish.
That. Yeah, what do you get if you fall in love? Well, you end up with a bloody Deacon Blue song covering a Bacharach song. Nobody wanted that.
No, it's so dull. So dull.
Yes. And it was one destined for the drunken smooch 10 minutes at the Pier 39 at the end. When you're like sort of drunkenly doing the shuffle dance toe to toe. Probably getting off with some girl you're not really that interested in, but what does it matter at that point?
No, probably not. In at number 14 is Can You Party by Jive Bunny and the Master Mixers.
I can, and I'm not going to. Off a cliff with you. Off you go. There you go.
Let's not talk about them anymore. Number 17 is Silhouettes by Cliff Richard.
It's a shoobity-doobity song. It's shoobity-doobity-doobity.
But it's a song about being a peeping Tom.
It is, yeah.
I was walking past your house and you had the blinds drawn. I was looking anyway and saw 2 figures and I saw you put your arms on you. It's like, stop looking at people's windows, you weirdo.
It's Cliff Richard. That's what he does, allegedly.
I know. Well, he says he does in this song. I mean, there's clear proof. We can prove it
exactly
in songs.
I may have found the perfect image of him in mid Richards. Try and post it in the show notes. I think that's the ultimate image of Cliff Richard. If you were going to say, how would you summarise Cliff Richard's image? That would be it.
That would be it. And number 37 is End of the World by Sonia.
It should be, really, for her. In the sea with this and everything about it.
So I posted a picture of the chroma key horror of this video.
It's so bad. I mean, the thing is, the blind ambition to think you could try and do any kind of compositing with that hair. It's impossible.
Yeah, it's not great.
You can see how much hairspray they've applied to that to set it in one space so there's no wisps. Because you get a wisp off that, you're done. Yeah. Even then, it looks fake. It's crap chroma key. In the sea with it. I fed it into ChatGPT, gave me an image of her being thrown off a yacht. That was its own choice. I didn't prompt that.
Well, number 39 is Now You're Gone by Whitesnake. So much swirl and hair.
There is. I mean, at this point, I did not know that Steve Vai had joined Whitesnake. Did you?
No, I had no idea.
No, it was totally unknown. I heard the opening guitar sound. I'm like, that sounds like Steve Vai, because there's no mistake in Steve Vai on anything. I thought, but I didn't remember him ever talking about the time he was in Whitesnake. Maybe he doesn't because it's called Whitesnake and he's like, ooh. But I mean, I don't like the track. And he's a guitar and he's amazing in it, obviously. But it is burly, stupid David Coverdale ripped nonsense. So
number 45 is Dive, Dive, Dive by Bruce Dickinson. As you write, it's sweaty. So sweaty.
It's so sweaty. That video's really sweaty, like hot and sweaty. I mean, they must have been mopping that stage they're on for months to get rid of the sweat off that.
Well, I can't imagine wearing a leather jacket with nothing underneath it is very pleasant.
No, not for anybody.
No, the guitar. Also, I noticed that the guitarist was also wearing a Bruce Dickinson T-shirt, and I thought do you think it's part of his contract? He had to have something with Bruce Dickinson on it at all times, like
exactly
T-shirt, socks, pants.
Yeah, thong.
Something. Just got to. I don't know. Why would you be wearing a Bruce Dickinson T-shirt if you're in the band? That's just.
He's got Bruce Dickinson pants and he's drinking out of a Bruce Dickinson mug because if he didn't, Bruce Dickinson would get angry with him and do that face he did in the other video.
He's got that picture of him on the mug. He's like,
and
come on, young dude.
Don't worry, podcast listeners, those mugs are coming.
At number 48 is Don't Be a Fool by Loose Ends. Ugh.
Yeah, hour shite fodder. Rubbish.
Number 53 is Heart Broke and Busted by Magnum.
No, they just need to go now.
They need to go. Video.
It's just horrible cliche nastiness.
It is so
awful.
They're singing in like what looks like the end of some mock-up of like roadworks, and then there's these women in overalls and stuff, and they're working on this cars nearby, and at one point one of them's just polishing like a headlamp or something, a long headlamp, just rubbing it up and down. It's like, oh god, no. But then like midway through the song, they take off their overalls to reveal they're wearing sexy negligees, which is obviously what all mechanics wear.
That's it.
Like, this is just dreadful. Rubbish.
Terrible,
dreadful.
terrible thing.
Yeah. 26th of August, in at number 23 is Rhythm of the Rain by Jason Donovan. Terrible.
No. Terrible.
Yeah.
Boring. He looks uncomfortable all the way through that. Not very good.
No. Number 29 is In My World by Anthrax.
I probably should like him, but I don't.
No, it's because they're rubbish. Number 39 is Life's What You Make It. Life's what you make it. By Talk Talk.
No.
No, indeed. Massive. I've never realised these are another set of honkers, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. You just did a good impression of the honking. It was never a track I was into at the time, or a band I've ever really liked either.
No. And I didn't like the next one either. Number 40 is Groovy Train by The Farm.
Oh, no, I hate it. Get on. The groove. They do that kind of weird wobble dance. Yeah. There's about 10 of them doing it, which is hilarious because they're all like going, hey up, what you doing, hey up. They're all like doing the Liverpudlian wobble. I don't think Liverpudlians all do that, but they're doing that video. Number 45 is Peace Throughout the World, featuring Jazzy B by Maxi Priest. Naff. No, maybe someone likes that and they like the tea that flavour, not me.
Number 56 is I've Been Thinking About You by London Beat.
My sister really liked that track for some reason. It's passable and harmless enough.
It's weirdly okay, isn't it? It's just like, it's all right.
Yeah, it's got a nice sort of chorus, middle eight sort of vibe. Right. Put together okay. It's nice. It's not too bad.
Yeah. Number 57 is Hard to Handle by the Black Crows.
Really amazing Otis Redding track, murdered by the Black Crows, really.
Yeah, they've honked and tonked it.
They have. Too much honk, too much tonk, and they ruined the subtlety of it. It does not require that much honk or tonk, turns out.
It doesn't. At number 60 is Endless Summer Nights, double with Hold On to the Nights. Endless Summer Nights with Hold On to the... Call them something different.
Yep.
Stop making my job hard. Richard Marx.
Yeah, it's all hair, this. It's all hair. His hair's so epic in certain parts of this video, it looks like an actual bird.
It does. There's a bit where he's walking down a boring alley. It's Boring Sax Avenue. There's some boring sax he's playing and he's walking moping along. It's like, oh, what a dull thing.
It's just, his hair's just massive. There's a point when he looks round, his head doesn't move. He's a face on a giant nesting bird.
His head swivels, but the hair stays stationary.
It's an albatross with a human face on its wings.
Yeah, quite possibly. And finally, in at number 77 is Type by Living Colour. Very different energy, change. We've talked about the change that's coming to metal Yeah.
The Magnums are disappearing and the Living Colours are stepping in, the Faith No Mores. I didn't realise, having listened to this, and I haven't listened to a lot of Living Colour, to my shame, is that they share so much musically between this and Faith No More. That whole genus, you can sort of feel it.
Yeah, it's a bit funk metal in it, sort of.
Yeah, that's what they described it as. I remember there being an entire episode of Raw Power dedicated to funk metal, because, of course, Extreme aren't going to be far behind this.
You got things like Extreme. What's the class one? Being Caught Stealing. They're probably in there somewhere.
What
I suppose
called,
Red Hot Chili Peppers, all them sort of things are in there, aren't they?
No, what are they called? The people that did Being Caught Stealing.
It's no. They came from
Jane's Addiction.
Jane's Addiction, yeah, that's them.
Yeah, so Jane's Addiction, Living Colour, Faith No More. There's a type and a sound to them, isn't there? And they're very popular.
They would later become Porno for Pyros, Jane's Addiction, wouldn't they?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Let's get into some albums. Let's just get through these. There's not much here to talk about. 5th of August, in at number 45, is The Hunger by Michael Bolton.
Yeah, he was always hungry, and that's why he's made that, really.
He was, just like, terrifying hunger. Number 48 is Never Neverland by Annihilator.
Weird Iron Maiden-ish, type thing.
You ever heard of him?
No, I hadn't, and I listened to their album, and it was the Annihilator album. The Never Neverland by Annihilator. I listened to the full thing, but they just sound like they're a little bit more melodic and maybe slightly better musically a version of Iron Maiden, but the same kind of changes and stuff. And if you asked an AI to create a late 80s, 90s British rock band that sounded like Iron Maiden, they would create this. Yeah,
probably. But we've already got Halloween, so if you're not going to be that good, then you're not going to be,
Yeah, I don't know. They're different to that. There's something about this particular thing. I don't know. There was some interesting stuff musically about it, but it was just it kept trying to do something interesting. Then it had to sort of meet it with kind of, hang on a minute. No, it's like, you kind of shot yourself in the foot with that.
12th of August, in at number 20 is Rev It Up by Vixen.
Don't rev it up. No.
This was their second album. It didn't do very well, and then they were dropped by the label EMI.
Yep.
And I think by this point, and I'm not knocking Vixen for whatever they are sort of thing, but I think Vixen came through on a point where they were like, we need female metal bands or rock bands that look good. And by this point, that whole thing, there was not enough good songs. They didn't have any.
People weren't distinguishing between the hair metal of women and the hair metal of guys. The sound was derivative. The videos looked cliched. The videos that did all the business on MTV had semi-naked women in, and that was really what attracted the audience to them. It wasn't the music. Their time was up, and this is a classic example, which is why the album did crap, and they were kind of done for, really. It is a shame, because they're a talented bunch of musicians and singers.
Yeah.
But they think that the record and the music industry had moved on. They were just caught up in the wake.
At number 30 is Sexuality by Candy Dulfer.
She can only speak in the tones of saxophone,
What are those tones?
Well, it's like if you go to the shop, she's like, so toilet rolls, they're down aisle 3, love. So she speaks only in saxophone.
Okay, fair enough. Must be tricky. In at number 35 is Brothers Keeper by the Neville Brothers. Now, I was hoping this was Phil and Gary, who would then go on to sign for Man United, but probably not.
It wasn't. No. Don't know. 5th album by them. I don't know quite know. R&B, I think, probably. I don't know. It's got Linda Ronstadt, something to do with it. That says everything you need to know.
Yeah. 19th of August, in at number 2 is Blaze of Glory, Young Guns 2 by John Bon Jovi.
Yeah, soundtrack stuff, music-y, cowboy-y. Down, 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 down.
Instant spares on your shoes and
exactly.
Landscape around you changes. Keeping out at number 3 is Bossa Nova by the Pixies.
You'd know more about this than me.
Well, I actually gave this another listen today because I've not heard this in years. It's such a good album. It's such a good, strong album. This, like, even just the album tracks are just like, these could all be singles. Everything. It's so unusual, so different to everything else that's going on around at the time, and you can see how grunge just comes out of this. What they were doing. It's a bit more of a straightforward rock album. But rock album via the Pixies, which means it's not straightforward. But it's a really, really good album. There's so many good songs on it, not just the 2 singles. But it's just a great, great album. So if you're going to listen to a Pixies album, I'd say maybe give Bossa Nova a try. It's very good. But if you're not, don't. Can't force you. Number 23 is Say Something Good by the River City People.
Okay.
I know nothing about this.
I know even less.
Yeah.
I don't know much about it.
No. Number 40 is An Emotional Fish by An Emotional Fish.
I don't quite know what to make of these. I thought they were more your street than mine, really.
Maybe. I didn't.
Irish alternative rock's your forte, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I suppose, sort of thing. I suppose. I am all over the Dublin scene. Not really. I don't know what I'm on about. Number 52 is Edutainment by Boogie Down Productions. Good
album with lots of good stuff on it. Get Brown sorts of be pontificating over this massively, I would imagine, if he was here.
Probably.
I seem to remember he played a few tracks off this. So, yeah, all good stuff. And Boogie Down Productions very well known for the things that they did. If you're into it, right?
All right. 26th of August, number 1. Straight at number 1 was Graffiti Bridge.
Spoke about that earlier.
Spoke about that. Number 2 is In Concert, Jose Carreras, Placido Domingo, and Luciano Pavarotti on the back of the World Cup.
Well, this was actually on the back of the first concert they did together.
Number 8 is Liberty by Duran Duran.
Yeah, and that's where it needs to stay, because it's not good.
It's not very
good. Awful.
Number 24 is Tyr, Tyr by Black Sabbath.
Symbols, isn't it? They released it as Symbols. Norse mythology symbols. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a concept album, apparently. Not one I'm familiar with at all.
But then they said it's not a concept album.
Yeah, apparently.
And finally, at number 35 is Poison by Belle Biv DeVoe.
Yeah, you either like them or you don't. R&B, hip-hoppy type stuff. They're kind of catchy in their own little world. So, yeah, maybe people liked them. This was a very big Vogue thing at the time.
And there we go. That's it. That's your music for August 1990. We're going to go away, take a quick break, come back. We still have 2 games to get through for this episode, so please do stay with us. And we're back. We're back for the second lot of games. Graham, well, it's over to you. This is, I guess, a sequel, pseudo-sequel. Tell us what it's like to ski or die.
Okay. This was presented by Electronic Arts.
It was.
The creator is Michael Abbott. He did Kings of the Beach. I don't know if we ever looked at that, actually, or whether we will. I don't know.
I don't think we have, no.
Interesting, really. Kings of the Beach is a EA game with a Rob Hubbard soundtrack on the C64. I don't quite know why we haven't come across that. Also, the creators of this was Michael Kosaka. He did Summer Games 2, or was one of the people that was involved in Summer Games 2.
Oh, okay.
And Naina Chambers, who also did Kings of the Beach. Musician Dave Warhol. He did the music for Neuromancer, amongst other things, for EA. EA had in-house coders and musicians at this point, so the games they released on this, and these were probably going to be released on other platforms too. I think this is on loads of platforms, actually, another one. Yeah. I think this came out on NES and Mega Drive and loads of others at the time, Amiga and everything else. So I suppose what you'd say is really for this, its heart would be the C64, wouldn't it, really? Maybe,
probably.
Maybe. Anyway, it was $14.95. I guess it's a disc game.
Yeah, disc only, innit?
But tragically, or not surprisingly, it got 61%. So there's obviously something that Zap thought was a little bit awry. According to the blurb, it says, stalking in a winter wonderland. Once again, Rodney's slushy ski shack is open for business. Yeah. But Rod and his host of Inhospitables refuse to let you enjoy the Sub-Zero Ski Fest because ferocious freaks of nature like chainsaw-toting bunnies, punk rock penguins, and bodacious polar bears are anxiously waiting to knock your poles out from under you. From the snowboard half-pipe to the snowball blast, this Arctic adventure will have you wishing you were back at the chalet exchanging fondue recipes with a thick-necked man named Gunther. But bogus moguls, are only half your headaches because Twisted Lester and his lucky lawn dart are looking to pop the wind out of your sails in the inner tube thrash. And if you're not cool enough to avoid getting Lester's point, you'll get a chance to impress the fickle judges in the downhill blitz and the acro aerials. Sorry, no hog-calling competitions. So start waxing those skis if you plan on seeing the light of summer again, because you can either backflip, pike, or helicopter your way into the world record book or a body cast.
Okay.
This is a multi-event winter sports type game, essentially, under the brand of Ski or Die. If you would think that this was take Skate or Die and put snow on it, you've got this.
Yes.
Principally, that's exactly what it is. It didn't take a great deal of game design thought on this.
No.
So I don't know if anyone really wanted this. It's sort of come out of the blue a little bit, but here it is. It's between Winter Games, the Games Winter Edition, Winter Olympiad 88, Professional Ski Simulator, We've had a few of these over time, and some of them are much better than this in some ways, and some of the events are much better than this. I don't know that anyone was really ready for what this is. It's clearly a reskin of Skate or Die. Okay, fine, that's what it is. Okay, Rodney this time is dressed in a kind of a ski coat or a ski, I don't know, sleeveless, what do you call it, body warmer. And some of the events in this are kind of better than others, but none of them are great. You want to explore the different events here. You've got Snowball Blast, Downhill Blitz, Acro Aerials, Inner Tube Thrash, and Snowboard Halfpipe. Those are what you have to do. You can play this multiplayer, and of course, you can play this as practice, or you can go through individual events, or you can go through the whole thing as like a competition. The various versions of Klax of this have problems. There are several of editions of this that have the same problem, and that is basically that the crack will not load certain parts of the game. I managed to find one that did work, and only because it was bug fixed. So I don't know if that bug is prevalent in the original or not. I don't know that for sure. I'd imagine not. But either way, I ended up playing basically a kind of cartridge version, so loading times were kept to a minimum. Although I have a feeling that they were probably quite quick anyway for this, because in these kind of games, they generally are. Yeah. Graphically, this all looks very good, and some of it very, very nice, actually. And the selection and what you've got to do is quite good, I suppose, in the terms of the items that you have. And the controls for those are kind of easy too. There's kind of a weird music that plays when the title screen appears. You've got quite a nice title screen. You've got basically a snowboarder doing some kind of stunt, ski or die writing across the screen. And then you get this kind of, the only way I can describe the music, and this is by the way, no relevance or reference to the Hawk 2 girl that's been completely dominating social media over the past 2 or 3 or 4, days. But the music is kind of
okay.
It's kind of a Hawk 2 music on the title screen. And it's not great. It's that, I think you pointed out earlier, the Americans in their games don't do great music in C64, so this is kind of a version of that.
They don't.
When you do start and get to the main sort of selection screen, it's Rodney again, and it's principally the exact same graphic from Skate or Die, only he's wearing different outfits. And it's a slight variation of what you can select. So here you can choose to view the high scores. You can sign in and then compete, or you can just go to compete and go for sort of the complete variation of those, or you can go and practice. And that's it. You can move your mouse pointer around. It's like a little icon that says Ski or Die. You move it around and it can highlight different areas and it'll say different quirky things like, oh, what are you looking at, my jacket? Why are you looking at my peepers? And just, it is what it is. But it's ultimately the idea of this is you can select the various different items and you'll get to the point when you'll select one of them. I actually selected practice because, and I have to say there's a couple of things that are stupid about this. So I selected practice because I wanted to practice the events. It turns out, by the way, I don't know if you know this, maybe you do, that the practice events are different to the main events.
Oh, right, okay.
So even if you practice the practicing events, they tend to take they put a little bit of take some of the restrictions off, which is okay, but then you're not practicing the game that you actually play when you play the actual game. So you're not really practicing. Classic example of that is in the Snowball Blast, because you have infinite snowballs when you practice, but you don't when you play the game.
Yeah.
So that might affect how you actually play the game.
Yep.
So, because if you practiced and just thought, I'll just blast everything and then went into it, you can't, because in the actual game, you've got limited snowballs. And it does that all the way through. So every practiced event is slightly different to the actual event that you play. And I think that's a bit dumb, because I guess the idea of the practice is to get you used to the controls, but the controls aren't very good. And I'll come back to that. So then you actually end thinking, well, what am I really trying to get good at here? Anyway, we'll maybe come back to the way it plays. But the idea of the practice is that you're meant to do that, but the practice is not the same as the actual events. So, okay. So like I said, there's several different events. So once you got past the Rodney screen and his weird bug eyes that, stare at you kind of wildly, you'll come to the sort of main sort of selection screen. I forget what they call it now, but it's like a chalet essentially. So it's like a little mini village. In the center is your kind of Rodney's kind of shop where you can go. And I think at certain points you can maybe even get upgrades for the equipment that you've got if you play it in that way, I think. But you've got the different aspects of the different events you can do. And so you can go and do a snowboard halfpipe, and you've got a little skier. You control them with the directions of the joystick, and then you press fire to sort of speed up, and you can navigate them around the little track. And you can choose to do the snowboard halfpipe and, like I said, the inner tube thrash and all the different events. I went through every event and I'll describe them as I sort of went through them. Mm-hmm. This is, like I said, this is a multi-event game. And the problem here is that was the problem that was in Skate or Die. Ultimately, for these games, there's no payoff. There's no thing you win. There's no big thing. There's no big event. There's no big finale. There's no end thing. Winter Games has got an end sequence. It's got an end. It's the reason why you do it. Summer Games has this, but Skate or Die suffered from the same problem. You're kind of just doing it because you want to do the events. it needs the trappings of a thing. It needs the trappings of a competition.
It needs a beginning and end. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. And because it doesn't have that, so this is just a experience these events simulator, really.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start with snowboard halfpipe. Dreary. The idea is that you've got a half-pipe view coming towards you, and the graphics aren't bad, albeit that it is just kind of animated like two little black things zooming towards you. But you get the idea that you're shooting down what's the equivalent of the
bobsleigh?
Bobsleigh, yeah. So you're going down a bobsleigh track, but you're a tiny little skater on a snowboarding down this kind of pipe. And the idea is that you can swing left and right in this kind of half pipe as you shoot down the kind of track, doing stunts as you fly up on the left and you fly up on the right. So it's a half pipe, but you're kind of moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
And you're on a snowboard. So that's the plan. And there are different obstacles that come towards you that you can jump over or you can collect that will give you extra bonus points. And you can also perform stunts. At the top of the screen is the UI, which details the kind of the score that you've got. And there's a judge there that will give you a kind of score based on the things that you do. So if you pull off a crazy stunt where he puts his hand down and sort of scoots along, you get extra points for that. It all feels a little bit for naught because who are you trying to impress? What's the purpose? What are you part of? Even if you compete, what are you part of? So take that aside. Also, the controls are not intuitive in the slightest. What you'll find yourself doing is going left and right and jumping periodically and then going left and right, flying up in the air and then landing down again, flying up in the air, landing down again. Maybe you'll score extra points for reasons you can't explain. But what you aren't is at any point in control of what you're doing to any greater or lesser extent. This thing just careers down the half pipe until it gets the end, and then you get a kind of final score. Maybe you've done stuff in between, maybe you haven't. The graphics are okay, and you do get a sense of progression, but your sprite is a little bit little. The track feels massive, though the half pipe feels massive, and it doesn't feel really like you've really done anything.
Yep.
And that comes back to bite this game several times. So let's take this onto the inner tube thrash. This is a tube-in style downhill racer where you're in an inner tube going, basically playing tube-in on the snow. The same exact game, but it's tubing on the snow. You're against another player. You're in a tube. You're scooting down. You have no control over what goes on in this. Nothing. It starts at the top of a downhill, and there's you and the other player. And the screen scrolls, and the graphics are okay, and you get little bumps, and you get things. You've got tracks you've got to navigate, different pathways you can go, flags you've got to go in between, things you can collect. But I would defy anyone to explain to me exactly how I'm controlling this, because I'm moving the joystick. I'm not sure firstly, I'm not even sure which one I am. And when I finally figure out of the two sprites on the screen which one I am, then I'm not really understanding how I'm controlling it. I move left, it sort of moves left, I move right, but it doesn't go that way. I start spinning and bouncing off things uncontrollably. I press the fire button, it doesn't seem to do anything, and then it did do something. The controls are obtuse and weird, and the instructions, it does explain them. I'm not going to go through all the instructions and explain each individual event, but the instructions explain it, but they don't explain it in a way that makes any sense. And that's a key problem of this game, and it was the same problem that was in Skate or Die, is that their controls are not intuitive enough. And these games live and die by that. All of the Epic's games, the Summer Games 2, Winter Games, World Games, you can figure out how to control them with very little effort. Or even if you read the basic instructions, it gives you fairly simple, rudimentary, push up, down, do this, do that for things that you need to know. With this, I just careered down the side of a snowy mountain, I'm guessing. I had no idea really what the purpose of it was. And I hit the thing at the bottom and I won. And I'm like, what? Why? What did I win? What did I do to win? I didn't feel like I did anything. Okay, moving on. Acro Aerials. This is a variation for me, and it looked and felt a lot like the event in Winter Games.
Hot dog.
The hot dog event. Only the hot dog event did it better and
Way
more
better.
fun.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's an attempt at that, but it doesn't work. The controls are off because they're sluggish to respond to what you do, and it doesn't quite work. It's the same idea, but it doesn't have the same kind of characterization, animation. The graphics are nice in the background, but this was better in Winter Games by miles.
Yep.
So it doesn't quite work. And so, again, the payoff, you get these judges' scores, they appear, 1.5, 1.4, 1.3. You're supposed to do stunts in the air, but you've got no real control over what you're doing. So you'll be like, Snowball Blast. One of the only ones I actually enjoyed out of this. And I think that's because it's a shoot 'em up, really.
Yeah.
Now, you're in a turret. You can choose different directions by pressing spacebar, and you have a target reticule. That is where you shoot your snowballs. The kids run on, throwing snowballs at you. You shoot snowballs at them. Now, how this is any kind of winter sport is beyond me, but it was actually pretty enjoyable. It reminded me of an old game that came out, I think it was on the Amiga or the C64 called, I think it was Snow Day Afternoon. I'm not even sure where that even was, what it was part of, even if it was a demo. But it reminded me of that. And it's just quite nice to just, shoot snowballs. It tracks score. The more snow you get hit on you, the more you get frozen. It's quite a nice little game in its own right, and it's quite good fun. But it's no more a winter sports event than any. I don't know why it's here. It doesn't belong in this game at all. So it doesn't fit. Downhill blitz. This was the most frustrating thing. Scooting down the side of a mountain, constantly falling off, constantly restarting, constantly trying to change direction and not quite work, constantly fighting the controls all the way through to the bottom of the damn mountain. I get the idea of what it was meant to be. It's a downhill on off-piste, so it's not like it's like you're basically skiing down a mountain. You got to go down mountain paths. But nobody stopped and thought, actually, this makes this game next to impossible to control if you don't have the nuanced control over the skier that you need for something like this. The ability to stop, change direction, and it's key. Once the inertia starts in this game, you've got no chance. You'll go off the cliff, you'll restart, you go off the cliff, you'll restart. It is just stupid. And inevitably, you don't die in this, you just lose time. So eventually you just lose patience because you just want to get to the end so you can quit, because it's fairly frustrating. So all of those events that I've described, the snowball blast was the only one I had fun with. Downhill blitz, no. Acro aerials, it's done better. Inner tube thrash is tubing and not very good. Snowboard half pipe was a variation of another game that wasn't very good. None of them are good. Big problem, that, isn't it? Big problem.
Yep.
So my main issues outside, because it looks okay and the loading's okay, but the controls, weak, sluggish, never feels like you're in much control. The events are pretty poor, from poor to not very good, with the exception of the snowball one. They just plow on. You don't feel like you're getting much from them. You don't feel like you're in control of what you're in control of. They're no fun. It's no fun to be not in control of something. The downhill blitz, for example, it's just, like I said, sees you falling off every second. The inner tube thrash, you're not in control. The snowball halfpipe feels like you can't really do anything. This is a disempowered winter sports game where you have no power over the game itself. Therefore, you have no fun that you can derive from it apart from the snowball one. So there's nice graphics, maybe there's nice technical details. The game feels soulless and heartless. And this is clearly just a reskin of another game for whatever reason. It's no fun. None of the events are very exciting, with the exception of the snowball blast. I had literally zero fun in any of this. And it's an odd bunch of events. I don't know. I get you want to do different things to the others, maybe. But there's a reason why these events have never been put in those games. And those are the standard bearers. If you haven't put these games in the standard bearers, there's a reason. Maybe they're just not going to work. Maybe they don't present much fun. Now they've just gone and proved it in a test, haven't they? I was left, no pun intended, cold by this game. The skis could have been the limit, but in the end, I was just snowboard. And that is not ice. This was snow hit, I can tell you. This was the yellow snow of winter games, Adrian. What did you think?
I don't know how to follow that. The best bit of the review. I have enjoyed that bit of that review more than I did this game. That's what I did. What's happened here? Who wanted this? Go and play Winter Games. Winter Games. When was Winter Games? 1985 Winter Games. We reviewed it in the first year of Zap. This is nearly 5 years later. No. Just play Winter Games for your own sanity. None of these events are enjoyable in any way. They all feel slow and dull, and as you've rightly said, lacking in responsiveness. So I'll just go through what I experienced playing these, all right?
Yes.
The two-bin game, the two-bin knockoff, I turned around, I started going down. The CPU player just swung across to me and trapped me against the wall. I couldn't move.
Yeah.
I couldn't move. I was like, stuck.
I can dig that.
I was like, what happened? Well, I can't move. Why aren't you moving? Just the point of the game? What's going on? The downhill skiing, I'll tell you why. If you didn't realise why it was so frustrating, because they've reversed the controls from the title, the menu bit. So basically what they've done is when you're on the main menu bit or you're skating around to sort of select which is basically the option. That's how you did it in Skate or Die, wasn't it? You skated around the little car park. So what there is, the controls are from, and as they rightly are, they're from the skier's point of view. So pulling left on the joystick turns the skier to their left, which kind of works because you sort of play it from that kind of view. That's how your brain works. You play it from there. So if you pull left on it, you kind of expect it goes to the right, but it kind of, because the skier is seeing it from their point of view. And that works in the car park bit fine. When they put you into the downhill bit, they reverse it. So there's no continuity of controls. So it's swapped it. So now it's from your point of view. So turning right turns you to the right. I was like, hang on, no. You've trained me to do. Oh, I hate it. And that's what kept breaking my head. I had to sort of really concentrate and try. Even then, it was rubbish. There's big like dead ends and stuff which you were supposed to jump off, but you can't jump off them. It's just stupid, that sequence. Just horrible. I didn't like it at all. So they reversed that. So that's stupid. The hot dog ripoff was a poor version of the winter, whatever it was. The Winter Games one's way better. Just far better. It looks better as well. The graphics in Winter Games, I went and had a look at them again. They're better in Winter Games as well, the graphic. The downhill acrobat stuff was rubbish. That boring half pipe thing seemed to go on forever for no reason. And the snowball throwing, do you know what the snowball throwing reminded me of? The bit in the turret sequence from Beachhead 2.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, yeah, totally.
Where they're running towards you and you turn the turret to try and shoot them, which is way more interesting. This was dull, boring. The snowball throwing, you're probably right, is probably the best one of the lot, but that's because, like you said, it's just moving a target around and throwing snowballs at stuff. It's also, I don't know, 61% for this is generous. It's really liked on Lemon. It's like got 7% or 7%, whatever. So that's like, what? I don't know what they're on about, but I think 61% is very generous. Because although, yes, it has variety, it's various brands of rubbish. 5 shits are still 5 shits.
Yeah.
No one wants that. Nobody wants anything like that. It's just rubbish. This is, as you said, it's 5 variants of yellow snow. A huge drop-off. We didn't mind Skate or Die, I seem to remember. We thought it was okay. There's some nice bits to it, and we thought it was all right. It was pretty good. This one, I have to say, well, it's Ski or Die. It needs to die, I'm afraid. But there you go. I didn't like this at all. God knows what happened here. But talented bunch behind it, but all went horribly wrong. I don't know what happened. And I played multiple versions, like you said, and it was, were we supposed to play it in NTSC mode or something? Would that have made it better? But I don't think it was, because the music was all right. So rubbish. Not very good. Not very good at all.
No,
let's move on, because we still have one game left to play. That game, Graham, is Heavy Metal. Heavy Metal. Did you ever want to control 3 of the world's most powerful combat vehicles, Graham?
Maybe.
Well, okay. Well, now you can. You can now, sort of. In Heavy Metal, Modern Land Combat Volume 1. To give it its full title. Volume 1. It's like a prog album. So this tank-based game, it's from Access Software. It was $9.99. It got 57%. It's from Access, as I said. You may remember them such things as Beachhead and Leaderboard. Access, stalwarts. The design of the game here is by our favourite carvers, Roger and Bruce, and also by Brent Erickson. The graphics are by Doug Vandergrift, Jim Slade, and John Bevan. Now, Brent Erickson, he worked on Echelon. Remember Echelon?
Yeah, I do.
We didn't really particularly enamored with that, but he worked on that. And a few of them worked on a game called Mean Streets, which we never reviewed. Was never in Zapped, but it looks as an odd interactive movie type thing, like a detective thing that was never reviewed in Zapped, but that's what they seem to have worked on. So I had the instructions for this. There's no real story of note here. That could think there's a game to this, but I couldn't really see an actual point to it, like we saw with Ski or Die. I couldn't really see like what the whole point of this was. There's nothing explained in the instructions anyway. Essentially, it's just go and defeat the enemy in a series of sorties to up your rank in the military, as far as I could make out. I couldn't make out much more of this. And to be fair, my playing of this game actually stopped at a certain point, and we'll come to that. So when the game loads, you get a little intro of a guy waving from a tank. He's too nice in that tank. That tank's too big, and he's sort of popping out the top going, hello, out the turret at the top. He's just too nice. It doesn't look like a tank driver. And then it asks you if you want to play the game or do you want a demonstration? Well, obviously, play the game. So that loads in the first of the menus, and you can you create a career. So it's like a career game. And there's one already here. It's just called Cadet. You can play as them, or you can create your own character for the game. So I created AD, and that was my character for the game. And so once that is done, you can't progress into the main game until you've proved your worth in the combat simulation modes. And within these, you need to score 5,000 points in order to get to the full game. And this is where I started to have problems. So the 3 modes you can select here are MBT, ADAT, and FAV. Okay, so there's no explanation of what these are in the game. Just says it. So if you read the instructions, okay, the MBT stands for Main Battle Tank. ADAT is Air Defense Anti-Tank System, and FAV is the Fast Attack Vehicle.
Okay.
So each of these 3 modes, they're played in a different way. And kind of what we have here is a multi-part kind of military action game. And I guess you'd say this traces its roots back to things like Desert Fox, Ace of Aces, and probably even Beachhead, I guess. Because, controlling different things. And so it goes back to them. So we'll go through these in order, selecting the MBT. And the MBT one is probably the most in-depth one. It loads the tank section in, okay? And this is probably, like I said, it's probably the most complex. So when it loads in, there's no greeting. It's just you're in the tank. You'll be greeted by the view inside your tank. So you start inside the tank, and it starts immediately. There's no get going. It's just it's going.
Yeah, it's off.
It's off. So the way the screen is split, across the top of the screen are your information panels, and then below this is your window onto the world, so you can see the 3D world outside. So at the top right of the screen, was it top left? Top left, I think. Sorry, top left of the screen is your radar. In the middle is what they call the laser rangefinder, and in the top right there's the different ordnance you carry. Now these are the interestingly titled M827. Which is the only thing to stop a tank because it's uranium pierced or something. There's the M829, which is standard armor piercing rounds, and the M830, which is another type of standard armor piercing rounds. Well, they have extra initials after them, but it's like, okay. And finally, there's some smoke that you can let off. So on your radar, dots will start to appear in it. And basically, you have to turn your turret to face them. There are other controls. We'll come to them in a minute. And so what this does, when you turn to face them, as they come into your view, there's like black dots. So imagine the landscape in front of you is green and blue. It's classic green and blue 3D that we see. Or is it yellow and blue? I can't remember. I think it's green and blue, isn't it?
Green and blue, I think.
I think it's green and blue. Yeah. So you see this, it's that typical landscape. You've got green at the bottom, blue at the top of the sky. There's some vector graphics mountains. Weirdly, you can press the instant delete key to fill in the mountains and make it slower. Why you would ever want to do that, I don't know. But you can do that if you want. It's up to you. So when you turn to face the dots, you'll basically just black dots in the world that are the enemies. Your computer will target them, like a little white square will appear around them, and then a sprite of them will appear in your laser rangefinder at the top. Okay, so this is basically what you've got to do to sort of shoot them. So there's like two lines, one a horizontal one and a vertical one that will sort of move across the sprite. So it could be like a SAM multi-missile launcher, a mortar launcher, a truck, another tank, anything like that. Okay, so it just shows you what it is. So what you've got to do on the left, there are two sets of numbers in this rangefinder. There's one on the left and one on the right. The one on the left is the elevation you need your gun to be at to hit the enemy. So it kind of tells you need your elevation at 32. On the right is what your elevation actually is. So you move up and down on the joystick to get your elevation to match the left one. That's what you do. Then you essentially just line up the vertical line that's in the middle with them. So you're basically pointing right at them, and you press fire and blow them up. And that's kind of it. All right, that's what you've got to do. And then you rinse and repeat. So you're just finding targets and blowing them up, and that's it. You can make your tank move with the keys 1 to 4, which goes up in 18 mile per hour gaps. So you can do 18, 36, 54, or 72 miles per hour, I think it is, or kilometers per hour. And space actually stops you, so that puts you back down to 0. Now, weirdly, in the instructions, it says press Control to go into reverse, so they go at -18, and press Tab to go forward. There's no tab on a Commodore 64 keyboard.
No, that's true.
So I didn't know. I couldn't. Once I pressed Control to go backwards, I didn't know what to press to go forwards. So I was just reversing. I was like, this tank is now reversing, and I can't do anything about it, which kind of ruined things a little bit. So I couldn't go forward at any point. So it's kind of weird. I didn't know what button I was supposed to press. You basically got 10 lives, because this is, remember, in the combat simulator point, to kill as many. The enemies don't end; they come at you as fast as you can. And then you've just got to kill as many, try and get over 5,000. You're going to be driving around. The problem with this is that you'll get blown up and shot very quickly. You'll just be under constant attack. There's too many elements on the screen. It takes quite a while because the controls are quite sluggish, lining things up, especially if you're moving and getting the right elevation, because you have to be moving, because if you sat still, you will just get destroyed. So if you're moving, it's really hard to get the elevation right because you're moving towards them. So your elevation needs to constantly change, and lining them up and things like that. The SAM multi-missile launchers will just destroy you instantly. They'll just go, just lob about 10 missiles at you. And not only will they destroy you once, it takes about 3 missiles to hit you. They throw about 8 at you, so they'll blow you up. It'll all go red. It'll pause a moment. You'll lose one of your lives. You'll come back. Then the next set will hit you. You'll lose another life. This is ridiculous. So at no point did I last long enough to get anywhere near 5,000 points. So it's like, oh, okay. I couldn't last long enough. It's like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing here. I tried to blow stuff up. I just couldn't get anywhere near it. Okay. So it's just basically watching your windscreen smash repeatedly. I didn't like that section. It's boring and it's frustrating. Next up is the ADAT. And the thing is as well, the rest of the sections are really simple in comparison to that one. The other two are really weirdly, stupidly simple. So you've got to load back into the menu screen before loading up this section. So there's a lot of loading. And they said in the Zapped review, the tape version of this is an absolute nightmare because you're loading back and forth. And I can only imagine it's an absolute crazy nightmare. So this is much simpler than the MBT section. And what you're doing here is you're fighting off endless waves of jets and tanks that are flying towards you. So at the bottom of the screen is your ADAT, which is kind of an air to sort of surface to air missile launcher with a machine gun attached. And you kind of sat behind that sort of first person. There is a bit of UI across the bottom of it. You've got a fuel indicator and a small radar on the left. There's your score and the number of lives on the bottom right, and then there's the sort of graphic of the launcher in the middle. And you sort of place as if you sat in this anti-tank system or anti-aircraft system, looking out over a yellow landscape with some red mountains in the distance. It's supposed to be, I guess, it's Colorado style, that kind of sort of look. I guess they're going for that kind of thing. So immediately planes start to fly in. You control a crosshair. You can just hold the fire button, constantly spray machine gun fire at them and try and shoot them. It's not very accurate, but it kind of shoots them for a while. But you've also got a targeting system, and this will lock onto planes, like a little red square will lock around certain planes, and you can just tap the space bar, and that will launch an automatically guided missile at them. So essentially all you're doing, and that happens automatically, all you got to do is tap the space bar. You can just spray fire against them, wait for the red square to appear, tap spacebar, spray fire, wait for that missile to blow its target up, another red square will appear, press the spacebar. It's just that, constantly. Tanks will come across the bottom as well, roll across the landscape as well. They need to be shot too. And that's really about it. This was actually very easy to get 5,000 points on because it's dead simple. There's no challenge here. It's really boring. The graphics, I guess, they're okay in this section. There's a nice sort of multi-layer parallax effect with the ground and the clouds in the air. They're quite good. The sprites are okay. The planes are just black silhouettes. So essentially, we've got what we saw in Beachhead 6 years ago. They were just black silhouettes as well. They've got some nice definition, nice animation. Just gets really boring really quickly because you're not doing very much. It is what it is. So once done, you move on to the FAV section. This is more loading, back to the main menu, and then into this section again. And this is different again from the other two. And basically, this is really basic. You are controlling in your FAV, which is your, what was it again? What did I say it stood for? It's the fast attack vehicle. Yeah. And so you're controlling this, and essentially you're just driving into the screen. It's like a pole position type thing without the track. It's a drive into the screen type thing. And you're trying to avoid, it's like, as you start driving, you're kind of in this desert area. It's sort of yellowy sort of sand and background, mountains in the background. And then there's just the most amount of debris you'll ever see in a game. It's just litter central. I don't know what's gone on here. There's obviously been a festival or something the day before, and it's just land is just littered with stuff, and you've just got to drive into it and shoot it. You got to shoot and clear a sort of path through. There's also like incoming bombs. You'll hear it's like, woo, and you have to sort of drive left to right to avoid them. Helicopters, badly drawn helicopters, will sort of fly at you as well, and you have to shoot them. And just contact with anything, the smallest amount of thing, like anything will just blow you up. In the training mode, you have 99 lives. This goes on forever. And there's no way to quit out of it. Or you can press quit, but I'll come to a problem with that. That's the problem I had with it. The 3D effect, I guess, is okay. Objects scaling up towards you, and the speed is quite fast. But it's really mindless. You just go through section after section with different graphics for different ground objects that you're just blowing up and trying to avoid. It's just really dull. Now, the problem I had, this was as far as I got, because I managed to get the requisite score in two of the sections, this one and the ADAT one. I couldn't get it in the third one, but it kept loading me into the FAV section, and then it kept not... I think I did it once in the tank one, then it loaded me into the FAV one and just dropped my score. So it would never put my 5,000 points in to let me progress to the big campaign part. So I don't know what that's like. People say you've got to go, but it sounds exactly the same. And the problem is these three modes are it. So it doesn't matter what the campaign is. You're going to be doing these three things over again. And that's I didn't care at that point because none of the modes held any interest for me to pursue any further. Kind of like what we saw in Ski or Die. None of these modes are particularly interesting or well done. We've seen these done way better in other things. So looking on Moby, this C64 version was originally released in 1988. All the ports to other machines, like the Amiga, the ST, I think it was the Spectrum, and Amstrad, and all those sort of things. These were done 2 years later in 1990, which I think someone's brought it over to the UK and ported it around. I don't know what the deal is here. I don't know who's done that or what's gone on here. But I think that's what's happened. So, although I'm not sure the lineage or what's happened or what the deal is. But maybe in 1988 this could have been okay. But even then, it's up against things like Desert Fox and The Train. We've looked at Desert Fox before then. The Train was before then, I think. Games which do this multi-part war action in a far better and more enjoyable way. We played them. Ace of Aces, all those kind of things. This also, weirdly enough, it came bundled with Beachhead.
Right, okay.
And even that does it better than this.
Yeah,
you go back and you play Beachhead and it's like but it's simple and it works and it's in a single load and it's just there. The 3 modes here just don't really gel together. They feel like 3 completely different games. So maybe they're trying to add variety, but they've got to be good because 2 of them are really simple and the tank one is really complicated. So there's no real coherence to the design here. I don't know what was going on. It's bettered in all respects this by those other games in the genre, Desert Fox especially, which is probably the closest and that, a normal, the closest thing to this. And that other one we played that other tank one the other week, didn't we? Which is a bit more hardcore. But this is, it's just, no, there's nothing really here to compel anyone to get into it. You just, to get past those annoying qualifying rounds. And I don't think the payoff when you actually do, that doesn't sound like there's no story or campaign. It's not like you can go and do this and you're trying to bring down these people or you're up against these things or blah, blah, blah. Even Carrier Command had that. There's none of that here. Just go play Desert Fox instead. It's far better. The mini games in that, they're quick, they're enjoyable, they're faster. It's more, it's got that cool speech and a better designed world, and it feels more about something. Nah, I didn't like this at all. Heavy metal, no. This was really boring. 57%, I think, is generous. I think it's one of those. Maybe it's better on the Amiga. I don't know, but I think this is one of those scores where it's like it's kind of okay, but it's really not. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much exactly the same. When I saw that it was a Carver game and Bruce's Carvers were involved, I thought, okay,
yeah,
maybe there's something to it. And I quite like the sort of tank and the little detail. And as much as it annoyed me that it took ages to go off the screen, I thought, okay, maybe there's something about this because they don't generally lend themselves to crappy things. I know the early stuff and everything else, but these are the leaderboard guys, right? So
yeah.
I thought it was interesting looking, though I couldn't seem to do anything that I wanted to do.
Right.
So I couldn't move around in the way I wanted. I could move the turret around and I could elevate the turret and shoot at the things. And I got the principal idea of it. And I thought to myself, I was actually looking at the instruction manual. Maybe there's quite a lot to it as well. There's kind of a nice polish to it as well in its own way. And the graphics are okay. But it just felt a little bit, after that, there wasn't a lot to play.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The sound effects were from Leaderboard on the whole. Sort of, that kind of thing. The loading was fast, I suppose, but the 3D that it provided, which was kind of via the dots and lines kind of view. And then you've got that kind of zoomed in view. We've seen a few of the Navy games play this way. When you've got the kind of, the ships in the distance and you've got that, I think it was the submarine game actually that probably is the most like this, where you've got the kind of zoomed in view on your periscope and you've got and you're targeting stuff and okay, maybe there's some mileage in that. I just found that the game that I played didn't feel very playable. It didn't feel like half of the time that I was even part of what was going on. I kind of just was the guy that rotated the turret and periodically shot at things. And there was clearly a lot more to it than that. And the sort of TACC view kind of proved it, because when I went to that, I was like, what on earth is all this? There's obviously a massive strategic part of this. There's obviously a lot of thoughts gone into what there was in here, but it just elided, and I mean, unusually for these guys, it just didn't have a lot of playable game there. I wasn't long before my screen showed a crack and it was like, your tank has been destroyed. And I'm like, but I don't feel like I'm moving. Am I supposed to move?
Yeah, you move with the 1 to 4 keys, which is not intuitive.
No, exactly. And I thought, so that's what I mean. I was like, so I should be moving, but I feel like I'm not. And when I am moving, okay, should I be getting close to the things? The vectors on it were okay, I guess, but they were on a small screen, so they were kept kind of minimal. Mm-hmm. It just didn't feel very exciting, and I thought it would have been more exciting than it was. What I ended up really doing was chasing lots of dots and lines in the distance. And yes, the zoom in view, and I think it was the Navy game, which was the one with the ship that had like kind of the aero skis on it. I forget the name of it now, that had that kind of view.
Was it a powerboat? something.
It was one of the ones where it was like a warship and you were playing out in the Atlantic. But it had the view of it was like
Epic's one, HMS Pegasus.
Yeah. Something, Pegasus, because you sort of you had a zoomed in view of the distance. And
I think so. Yeah,
and it felt a little bit like that kind of gameplay. I get the idea of it, but these tank games, haven't we sort of Skyfoxed our way out of this like a million years ago?
Desert Fox
Yeah, it didn't Desert Fox, Skyfox, and the games that were trundle and shoot games. There's a few of them. This isn't terrible. This isn't a bad one. It's just distinctly average for this kind of game. It's not quite good enough to be a simulator. It's not quite involved enough to be along the lines of the microprose stuff. They've tried to go for a kind of more playable angle, but in reality, what you end up with is just rotating and shooting at dots on a kind of a boring background. Yes, there's vectors. Sometimes they move. Sometimes they don't. I didn't feel like I was going anywhere. I just felt like I was a sitting duck. And the amount of time I spent in this game was directly proportional to my ability to hit things or not. So I was just shooting at things wildly. It didn't feel as strategic as it was meant to be. I don't know. It just felt like this was a big missold game, a missold experience. And I think that's why they called it heavy metal. I think they didn't put Tank Simulator in it because that's clearly what they were aiming for. So they've called it heavy metal to try and attract the kind of, where it's just trundling. If it was a big, if this was a fly around, boom, shoot at things, boom. If this was the fury of C64 video games, I could dig it. But this isn't that. Desert Fox has done this way better. And if I was going to play a game, and that has got speech and everything as well, why on earth would I be interested in this? This is really late to that party.
Yep.
So I found it empty.
I think if they'd have stuck, maybe because that's the thing, because the other two things, the ADAT and the FAV sections, they're really kind of really weak and they don't really do much. There's not much to them. And I wonder if they'd have just been better off pumping all resources into the tank section and making that control a tank. It starts off with a tank, you control a tank and sort of beefing that up and putting something, get rid of that opening section and just go and building a campaign.
Exactly. Well, controlling a tank should be an exciting thing.
Yeah.
Shooting that tank, yes, it does feel like you're shooting a tank. But at the same time, you shoot one of your tank bullets, whatever they are, off. Boom, in the distance. You're like, I missed. Boom, missed. And it's just like you said, we've kind of seen this many times before, right in the early days of Beachhead, and there's been dozens of games that have done this. And even some of the, some of those shooters where you've got a turret and you elevate the turret to different heights. I mean, Beachhead did it again years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
So what are you presenting that's new? You need to wrap more simulation around it to make it not to those things. But that's the thing that I think they've not gone far enough down the simulator road to make it simulatory, and they've gone not far enough down the Beachhead road to make it
arcade route. Yeah.
So you end up with this kind of trundle and shoot, boring nothingness with not a lot happens. You don't feel like you're in control of anything. I mean, even if I don't know if you did this, but I watched the demo mode. I thought, okay, I'll put it in demo mode. Let's watch an exemplar performance. It was dead within a minute.
Exactly.
It was like boom, boom, and then it trundled 2 minutes forward, then it was dead. It was like your tank is destroyed. I'm like, if the demo mode can't get out of what they're doing, then what can? Your demo mode shows you exactly what this game is like. Boring. So I'm sorry. It's such a shame that this is the final hurrah from the carvers, but boring. Boring game all over. Boring.
It's neither one thing nor the other, is it? It's not.
No.
It's not arcade. And like we said, Desert Fox just does this way better.
Exactly. It's not heavy and it's not metal. So
it's not. It's really not. There we go. Not a good second half. One good game this week. And that was Klax. All hail the Klax.
Clack
to the Klax.
Good old clackers.
Clack to the Klax. So, there you go. What we looked at, Klax was good. A.M.C. was not. Ski or Die was not. Heavy Metal was not. And I got to listen to a Pixies album again, so that's all right, I suppose. There we go. That's it this week. What have we got next week? Well, we've got 5 games for next week. Those games, Graham, that's Yogi's Great Escape. That's a budget Yogi.
A bogey.
Then we've got Sonic Boom.
Right.
I think that's some sort of arcade vertical shmup.
Right.
Adidas Championship Football.
Okay.
Then we've got Little Puff in Dragonland, I think is the full title for that.
Right.
Another budget game. And then finally, Daley Thompson's Super Test.
Okay.
A budget throwback, budget re-release, which
is a budget throwback.
It really is. I think 1985 that was, but it was never actually reviewed in Zap. So it's finally popped up. So we are going to have a look at it. And that's what we've got coming up next week, just to round off August, quiet month. If you want to support the podcast and keep us going as we trundle through these games in our MBT getting blown up, you can do that by heading over to patreon.com/Zapped to the Past and signing up. You can sign up for just a single shiny £1 per month, or you can but it's about the price of a pint of beer, or probably less, or a sandwich or something like that, or a Costa these days. Get the full fat experience and join our Discord, get the episodes ad-free and early, get to join in with all our stuff when we do the Ask the Podcast and the end-of-year things and any kind of other special episodes we put on. You can do that. So that's what you can do there. You buy us a Ko-fi on kofi.com/Zapped to the Past. It's co-fee, by the way. .com, I think.
Okay.
And you can go there and buy us a Ko-fi if you want. That's very nice. We really appreciate that. Rate reviewers and all that kind of stuff. It's all good. It's all good. But reviews are good. If you can spare a few minutes, or even just a couple of minutes, sort of thing, just rate us on iTunes. It helps, as it says in the end credits somehow. But it does. Supposedly, it does. The more reviews you get, the more you sort of pop up into people's feeds and things like that, which would be cool. There's simply not enough people listening to people talk about Commodore 64 games in the world. We need more people to listen to it. That's what I say.
True. Very true.
Very true. And there you go. That's it. We're halfway through August. Any thoughts, Graham?
I hope he gets better. I do. Now, one out of 4. This is not a great ratio to start with. A 25% success rate at the moment.
Yeah, we'll see next week. It all started off weird this month with that cover. I think the cover was an omen.
It did.
Yeah, we had we had 3 Neanderthals being menaced by, one of them was menacing the other with his armpit hair. It's
true.
I don't know what it is, and we had tit heads. So I don't know what's going on. But there you go. That's it. I think we'll go now and leave you to the rest of your day. As ever, I have been Adrian Mills.
And I have been Graham Raddings.
And you have been listening to Zapped to the Past. We'll see you again next week. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Zapped to the Past podcast. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of Commodore 64 games, as well as the music, films and TV from around the 1980s, driven, of course, by the issue of Zap 64 magazine published at that time. We will return with a whole new batch of games and stuff to talk about next week. Until then, if you want to listen to or download previous episodes of Zapped to the Past, and why wouldn't you, they can all be found on our website at zappedtothepast.com, as well as being available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Deezer, Audible, Player FM, and, well, pretty much anywhere where we can upload them. By the way, we do always love to hear from our amazing listeners, so if you'd like to contact us about anything in the podcast or beyond, you can do so by emailing us at zappedtothepast@gmail.com. We're also active on Twitter under @ZapTother, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and most social media platforms. Just search for Zapped to the Past and you'll find us. Oh, and if you like the podcast and what we're doing, please do like, share, review, rate us. It really helps. Something, apparently. The Zapped to the Past podcast is written and produced by Adrian Mills and Graham Raddings, and recorded at Flaky Bits 2.0 Studio. All opinions expressed are those of the writers, and while we indeed love Zap 64 magazine, the Zapped to the Past podcast is not affiliated with it in any way. Stay safe, see you next time, and remember, we play these games so you don't have to.